Chapter 40:14. The immortal martial heavenly tribulation was horrifying. Those who could successfully pass the tribulation were all extremely powerful, people with great perseverance and wisdom. Rumble, endless tribulation lightning struck down. Under the bombardment of the endless tribulation lightning, a golden figure gradually dimmed. The Golden War ancestor, Shun Supreme, and the Black Tiger Old Ancestors' heavenly tribulations were launched at the same time. This was definitely not a simple addition. Lunar tribulation lightning, 5 elements divine lightning, pure yang tribulation lightning, and chaos tribulation lightning. Tribulation lightning descended from the sky one after another, each stronger than the previous. Too terrifying. All the warriors who saw this scene were inexplicably shocked. Any random tribulation lightning could blast any of the watching warriors into pieces. At this moment, the 5-colored tribulation lightning descended and filled every inch of the void. Within each lightning bolt, there were lightning-shaped Tao patterns faintly visible. This was the condensation of the great Tao of heaven and earth. A destructive aura spread out, and billions of creatures trembled. A ball of lightning landed on the golden figure. The figure paused for a moment, then fell from the sky like a meteorite, crashing into the mountain ridges outside the Dongwu dynasty's imperial city. In the next moment, a cloud of dust rose up from the mountain ridges, and a destructive power rippled out in all directions, directly turning the mountain ridges into dust. Then, the Shunwu sect's sect leader, Shun Supreme, lasted 10 breaths longer than the Golden War ancestor before being blasted down from the sky by the tribulation lightning. The last was the Black Tiger Old Ancestor. This old ancestor was said to be a descendant of the supreme divine beast, the White Tiger bloodline. This Black Tiger Old Ancestor was actually the strongest among the 3. Roar. The 3 experts roared again and again, then rushed out in different directions. At this time, they had already realized the danger of passing the tribulation together and wanted to separate. At this time, in the Dongwu dynasty's imperial palace, a ball of divine light flickered continuously. A powerful aura spread out from this ball of divine light. Vaguely, one could see powerful figures faintly discernible within the divine light. This was a domain of the immortal Tao that Ji Yufei had conjured with his immortal grade power. It contained Ji Yufei's comprehension of the immortal Tao, which was nothing to Ji Yufei. However, for the natives of the Taiyuan realm, it was a great opportunity to touch the immortal realm. Such a fortuitous encounter was not something that just anyone could encounter. Moreover, the experts of these sects and clans in the Taiyuan realm were only one step away from attaining the supreme immortal path. Now, with the help of Ji Yufei, these people could easily take that step. At this time, the tribulation cloud that enveloped the sky split apart, forming 3 balls of tribulation cloud. No matter where the Golden War ancestors and the others ran to, the tribulation cloud would still condense above their heads, and tribulation lightning would still descend on their bodies. Of course, all of this had nothing to do with Ji Yufei. He left Mo Feng in the Dongwu Imperial Palace to control everything, then brought Mo Xian'er directly to the central region of the Taiyuan realm. When Ji Yufei flipped through the ancient books of the Dongwu Imperial family, he learned a secret. In the central region of the Taiyuan realm, there was a strange place called the Samsara Temple. There was a well in the Samsara Temple. According to legend, if one entered the well, one would know their past and present lives. Without hesitation, Ji Yufei left the eastern region and headed to the central region. He brought Mo Xian'er, the demon clan saintess, and directly flew hundreds of thousands of miles into the central region. Then, he flew for hundreds of thousands of miles before arriving in front of a towering mountain. To be precise, this was a divine mountain that pierced the sky. This was where the Samsara Temple was located. The Samsara Temple was located at the peak of this mountain. If one wanted to ascend the mountain, they would have to climb up step by step from the foot of the mountain until they kneeled before the Samsara Temple. Who are you? Just as Ji Yufei and Mo Xian'er approached the divine mountain, a middle-aged man in black jumped out and stopped them. Get lost. Ji Yufei could not be bothered to talk to this guy. He directly waved his sleeve and the middle-aged man in black was directly swept away by a force. What? The black-robed middle-aged man's shock was no small matter. He was a true realm cultivator, yet he was sent flying by a single wave of the sleeve of this person. Ji Yufei did not care about this guy. He directly took Mo Xian into the sky and flew to the top of the Samsara Divine Mountain. When the middle-aged man in black saw this scene, he was shocked and angry. This was the Samsara temple. Who dared to be so presumptuous? Even the sect ancestors of the major sects and the leaders of the major clans in the central region had to come here step by step. Since ancient times, not many people had dared to ignore the Samsara temple's rules in the territory of the Samsara temple. Boom! On the Samsara Divine Mountain, more than a dozen extremely powerful auras suddenly erupted. Each aura was extremely powerful, and there were even 2 auras of the divine state level. Who dares to behave atrociously in front of the Samsara Divine Mountain? An old voice came from the sky. The entire heaven and earth were roaring, even the clouds in the sky were shaken and dispersed. Mo Xian was indescribably shocked. The Samsara temple really lived up to its name as one of the 10 strongest forces in the central region. There were actually so many experts that suddenly jumped out. Any one of these powerhouses could squash him like an ant. However, Ji Yufei did not care about that person at all and continued to fly up. Everywhere he passed, the void trembled and a white trace of air explosion was left behind. The sound of the air breaking was earth-shattering. It was incomparably shocking. Damn it! The old voice sounded again. Then, the spiritual qi in the entire sky began to surge violently. A huge hand the size of a mountain directly slammed down from the sky. Rumble! The entire void below the hand shook violently and countless black cracks appeared in the space, tearing the void with one strike. When Mo Xian saw this, she was quite shocked. This was the attack of an existence that was close to the martial immortal realm. This was definitely not an ordinary divine state cultivator. The cultivation of the person who attacked was definitely not lower than the Golden War ancestor, Shen Supreme, and the others. However, before Mo Xian's terrified gaze, Ji Yufei actually directly rushed through the cracked void, directly smashed through the huge hand that slammed down from the sky and soared into the sky. What? Countless cultivators on the Samsara Divine Peak saw this scene and were all dumbfounded. Who is this guy? He's actually so powerful that he could ignore the attack of the ancestor. Very quickly, Mo Xian saw a divine sun hanging high in the sky. Ji Yufei had already brought her to the peak of the 100,000 Zhong Samsara Divine Peak. At the peak of the mountain, there was an ancient palace. A white-robed old man was staring at Ji Yufei and Mo Xian with a face full of shock. Fellow cultivator, you're very capable. The elder stared at Ji Yufei, his eyes extremely sharp. You're the reincarnation ancestor? Ji Yufei stood in the void and calmly looked down at the elder. You know it's me. Yet you still dare to be so impudent. The reincarnation ancestor was extremely depressed. He originally wanted to go to the eastern region to watch the immortal martial tribulation, but just as he was about to leave, these 2 guys directly attacked him. Do you know who we are? Mo Xian said with a faint smile. Who are you? The reincarnation ancestor immediately calmed down. These 2 people didn't have any abilities. How would they dare to come here and cause trouble? My big brother just came from the eastern region. Mo Xian was still smiling. To be able to call a martial immortal brother was enough to make her incomparably proud. Eastern region? The reincarnation ancestor was even more astonished. At this moment, the eastern region had attracted the attention of all the ancient caves in the Tai Yuan realm. Many of them directly went to the eastern region. The reincarnation ancestor was also extremely tempted and wanted to go to the eastern region. But now, it seemed that he couldn't leave. I don't care where you're from. Since you dare to barge into my Samsara palace, you should be prepared to die. At this moment, a voice resounded from within the ancient palace. Then, 3 figures walked out from the ancient palace. They were 3 elders dressed in white. These are the 3 great elders of the Samsara palace. Mo Xian said to Ji Yufei, who was beside her. She was the demon sect saintess, so she naturally knew about the super forces of the Tai Yuan realm. Other than the reincarnation ancestor, the Samsara palace had 3 great elders. These 3 great elders were all experts in the godly state. Including the reincarnation ancestor, there were 4 godly state experts. With 4 godly state experts in the Samsara Palace, it was no wonder that it was one of the 10 strongest forces in the central region. One should know that even the Eastern Wu dynasty didn't have 4 godly state experts. You want to kill me? Ji Yufei stood with his hands behind his back and said indifferently, "So what? Do you think we can't kill you?" A black-bearded elder sneered. "Ha ha," Mosiana laughed. Even the important figures of the Samsara Palace were shaken by her laughter. "What are you laughing at?" The other elder glanced at Mosiana indifferently. "What am I laughing at? If you know who he is, you won't say such stupid words. Moreover, you really can't kill him," Mosiana said. "Who are you?" The reincarnation ancestor stared at Ji Yufei with a serious expression. He directly ignored Mosiana. A puny carnate martial artist was no different from an ant in their eyes. "Ji Yufei," Ji Yufei said indifferently. "Ji Yufei? Who is Ji Yufei? I've never heard of him." The elders in front of the Samsara Palace said blankly, "Ji Yufei? Could it be that Ji Yufei who single-handedly defeated the Eastern Wu dynasty?" At this moment, an exclamation came from the foot of the mountain. Then, a figure rushed up from the foot of the mountain. "Zhao Qingyang, why are you here?" The reincarnation ancestor looked at the person and was a little surprised. Zhao Qingyang was the most outstanding descendant of the Samsara Palace. At the age of 30, he was already at the peak of the true state and was half a step into the saint state. "Greetings, Grandmaster." Zhao Qingyang hurriedly bowed to the reincarnation ancestor and then to the 3 elders. "Qingyang, is what you said true? This Daoist actually defeated the Eastern Wu dynasty?" The reincarnation ancestor said in shock. "Yes, old ancestor. I just got the news," Zhao Qingyang hurriedly said. "Single-handedly defeated an entire dynasty?" Not only the 3 elders of the Samsara Palace were dumbfounded, even the reincarnation ancestor was shocked. The Eastern Wu dynasty and the Zhu clan were a great clan in the eastern region that had existed for countless years. Chapter 40:15. The Dongwu dynasty was definitely not weaker than any sect in the central region. How could this person defeat the entire Dongwu dynasty? Was that even possible? A single person suppressing an entire dynasty? Are you kidding me? That's right. Qingyang, did you exaggerate the news? Is this guy a martial immortal? The 3 elders couldn't believe it. One must know that this was too inconceivable. Ancestors, he really seems to be a martial immortal, Zhao Qingyang said hesitantly. What? Zhao Qingyang's words shocked not only the 3 elders, but also ancestor reincarnation. A martial immortal? This was even more shocking than hearing that Ji Yufei single-handedly suppressed the Dongwu dynasty into submission. A martial immortal was a legend in the Taiyuan realm. Ancestor reincarnation had sensed the commotion in the eastern region and wanted to check it out. The commotion caused by the heavenly tribulation was too powerful. The big shots of the Taiyuan realm could sense it. He's a martial immortal. The black-bearded elder of the 3 elders had a look of disbelief on his face. Fellow cultivator, what do you want? Ancestor reincarnation stared at Ji Yufei with a serious expression. It did not matter if Ji Yufei was a martial immortal or not. Since he dared to come here, it meant that he was not afraid of the Samsara temple at all. Let's enter the Samsara temple and have a look. Ji Yufei said indifferently. Enter the Samsara temple? Ancestor reincarnation was stunned. The Samsara temple is an important place of our sect. You can't enter just because you want to, the black-bearded elder said coldly. You talk too much. Ji Yufei slapped the black-bearded elder with his palm. How dare you? Ancestor reincarnation said angrily. He made a circle with his hands and a powerful wave of energy spread out to block the attack. However, Ji Yufei's palm power penetrated ancestor reincarnation's power and smashed the black-bearded elder into meat paste. Everyone was stunned. That was a divine state elder of the Samsara temple. How could he be smashed into meat paste by Ji Yufei? This scene was simply too surreal. Sir, you seem to be going a little overboard. Reincarnation ancestor was furious, but he didn't dare to make a move. Ji Yufei's strength was too strong. The remaining two Samsara Temple elders were livid and did not dare to speak again. Zhao Qingyang's eyes widened and his jaw dropped. He was completely stunned. What, you still want to stop me? Ji Yufei was a little impatient. If these guys continued to squabble, he wouldn't mind making a move. Ancestor Reincarnation's expression changed several times before he slowly retreated. Haha, at least you're tactful. Mo Xian looked at the Reincarnation ancestor mockingly, then looked at the two elders of the Reincarnation Hall in disdain. These fellows simply won't shed a tear until they see their coffins. Ji Yufei didn't say anything. He took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of the Samsara Hall with Mo Xian. Then, he walked in. The two elders were shocked and angry, but there was nothing they could do. This guy was a ruthless person who could kill immortal realm experts with a wave of his hand. The Samsara Hall looked mysterious from the outside. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary hall. However, the moment Ji Yufei walked into this ancient hall, he felt as if he had entered another world. Spatial instrument. Ji Yufei was a little surprised. This kind of opening of space was like splitting open the sky and earth. This was not something that people below the immortal realm could do. It seemed that there were immortals in the Taiyuan realm, but the immortals seemed to have disappeared. It seemed that there was a big secret in the Taiyuan realm. But what did this have to do with him? Ji Yufei went to the reincarnation peak to find his memories. That is, in the middle of the hall, there was an ancient well that was swallowing yin and yang qi. There was a vague power of reincarnation flowing in the well. That is the mysterious reincarnation ancient well. Mo Xian's eyes lit up when she saw the ancient well. The reincarnation ancient well of the Samsara Hall was one of the most mysterious things in the Taiyuan realm. No one knew where this ancient well led to. Maybe it led to another world, or maybe it led to the next life. Who knew? You really want to go in? Mo Xian looked at Ji Yufei in shock. You guard here. Kill whoever dares to step into the hall, Ji Yufei said as he waved his right hand. A divine sword flew out from his hand and stabbed into the ground. A deep cold sword qi immediately spread from this divine sword. Mo Xian was shocked. I found this sword in the Dongwu dynasty's storehouse. It is an immortal sword. I refined it again and its power is stronger than before. With this sword, you can kill any martial artist below the immortal realm. Ji Yufei said calmly. Kill all martial artists below the immortal realm? Mo Xian was surprised and happy. Didn't this mean that with this sword, she was invincible below the immortal realm? But what if the supreme existence of the immortal realm came personally? Although Mo Xian was happy, she didn't lose her rationality. There were many people in the eastern region who were undergoing the martial immortal heavenly tribulation. Who could guarantee that among those people, there wouldn't be anyone who successfully passed the heavenly tribulation and became a martial immortal? If a martial immortal came, wouldn't she be dead? It's okay. I will lend you the power of your immortal spirit. You can use the power of your immortal spirit 3 times. Ji Yufei said as he pointed a finger at Mo Xian. Mo Xian's body trembled. She felt a wave of heat enter her body and disappear. That's more like it, Mo Xian said as she sat down in front of the divine sword. Ji Yufei looked outside the hall and jumped into the ancient well. Ha ha, at this moment, a loud laugh came from outside the hall. Then, a figure walked in. This person was one of the 3 great elders of the Samsara temple, Elder Lun Yu. Elder Lun Yu walked in step by step. With every step he took, the crescent moon-shaped seal between his eyebrows became brighter. It was as if it was going to rush out from between his eyebrows. What do you want? Mo Xian looked at Elder Lun Yu and said coldly. No one has ever come out after entering the Samsara ancient well, not even a martial immortal. Elder Lun Yu's expression turned cold as he stared at Mo Xian. Is that so? Mo Xian smiled and didn't say anything. Ji Yufei is dead. I will send you on your way now. Elder Lun Yu walked towards Mo Xian. You are the one who is dead. Mo Xian said indifferently. Ha ha, A mere inborn dares to be presumptuous in front of me. Ridiculous. Elder Lun Yu couldn't help but laugh. I am lucky. Jiyu Fei is dead and I can get a celestial artifact. Elder Lun Yu looked greedily at the divine sword that was stuck in the ground. Mo Xian suddenly smiled and waved her right hand. Clang. The divine sword that was stuck in the ground immediately turned into a sword light and slashed through Elder Lun Yu's body. Then, it flew back and stuck in the ground again. Elder Lun Yu's eyes were filled with incomparable horror. Then, a line of blood appeared on his forehead and he fell straight down. Chapter 40:16. Inside the Samsara Palace, Jiyu Fei entered the reincarnation ancient well and left Mo Xian an immortal sword and immortal spirit power that could be used 3 times. However, just as Jiyu Fei left, Elder Lun Yu of the Samsara Palace walked in from outside, wanting to kill Mo Xian and take the immortal sword. Mo Xian didn't even use her immortal spirit power, just a normal sword controlling technique, yet she killed Elder Lun Yu. Killing a God Realm expert with one sword, this shocked the 2 elders and ancestor reincarnation. Kill whoever dares to come in. Mo Xian's cold voice reached the ears of the people outside. Ancestor reincarnation and the others heard this and their faces turned ugly. At this time, Jiyu Fei fell into the reincarnation ancient well. This ancient well was very strange. It was pitch black all around and Jiyu Fei felt that he was falling. After an unknown period of time, Jiyu Fei's eyes suddenly lit up. Then, the laws of heaven and earth turned into divine chains that entangled him. Divine chains formed from the laws of the devil Dao rushed out of Jiyu Fei's body, the 2 forces entangled together. Devil? Jiyu Fei was shocked. It was actually a devil that did something to his body. The power of the reincarnation ancient well stimulated the power of the seal on Jiyu Fei's body. It was the purest power of the devil Dao. Every chain formed from the power of the devil Dao firmly bound him. Not only did the demonic chains seal Jiyu Fei's power, but they also sealed his memories. Damn, who is it? Jiyu Fei was shocked and angry. The chains formed from the laws of the devil Dao on his body were densely packed. He didn't know how many layers there were. The power of the devil Dao kept colliding with the reincarnation power of the reincarnation ancient well. Inside Jiyu Fei's body, there seemed to be a force that wanted to break out of the cocoon. This reincarnation ancient well seemed to be a world that was refined into a special existence. It contained the power of reincarnation. It could make people fall into the cycle of reincarnation. However, the reincarnation power of the ancient well had no effect on him. Boom. After an unknown period of time, Jiyu Fei felt the surrounding space suddenly tremble violently. Then, he discovered that he was actually in a ball of divine light that was like a ripple of water. The laws of heaven and earth, which blotted out the sky and covered the earth, were obliterated from all directions. This was the purest power of heaven and earth, and Jiyu Fei discovered that he was actually inside the divine pearl of heaven and earth. Jiyu Fei had never imagined that there would be a divine pearl of heaven and earth in the reincarnation ancient well. Without any hesitation, he activated the boundless power of the laws of heaven and earth to erase the layers of seals on his body. Just as Jiyu Fei was activating the origin energy of heaven and earth to erase the seal on his body, a dozen Samsara temple experts stood in front of the Samsara temple. Ancestor, this Jiyu Fei is simply too much. To think that he would dare to take over our sacred palace. Someone said indignantly. That's right. So what if he is a martial immortal? He cannot be this rude and unreasonable. Someone said. At that moment, Ancestor Reincarnation passed through the entrance of the Samsara temple and looked at Mo Xian, who was sitting cross-legged in front of the ancient well. His expression was extremely ugly. Ancestor Reincarnation already knew where Jiyu Fei came from. This guy had suppressed the entire Eastern Wu royal family with his own power. He was the first martial immortal to appear in the Taiyuan realm in countless years. There was no doubt that Jiyu Fei was powerful. Even the servant girl beside him could kill a divine realm expert with a single sword strike. Now, there were only 2 ancestor-level existences left in the Samsara temple. One was Ancestor Reincarnation, and the other was one of the 3 great elders, Elder Mo Tian. As for the others, they were the disciples of the 2 ancestor-level existences. All of you, shut up. Elder Mo Tian said in a deep voice. The group of people did not dare to speak at once. At that moment, the ripples from the eastern region became even more intense. The martial immortals' heavenly tribulation was earth-shattering and affected the entire world. The more powerful the existence, the more intense the ripples they felt. All of you, guard here. If the people inside come out, let them go. After saying that, Ancestor Reincarnation soared into the sky. He turned into a peerless divine light and flew towards the eastern region. In an instant, he disappeared into the horizon. Everyone looked at each other. In the end, everyone's gaze fell on Elder Mo Tian. Why are you all looking at me? Whatever Senior Brother Reincarnation says, we'll do it, Elder Mo Tian said impatiently. He also wanted to go to the eastern region, but he was worried about these guys. If these guys angered Ji Yufei, the consequences would be unpredictable. Yes, Ancestor. The group of experts of the Samsara Temple quickly said. At that moment, in the eastern region, people were constantly undergoing heavenly tribulations, and people were also constantly dying. Failing the heavenly tribulations would result in the destruction of both body and soul. No one could survive after failing the heavenly tribulations. Ji Yufei only gave the experts of the eastern region a chance to become immortals. However, no one knew whether they could become immortals or not. The Golden War Ancestor failed. His golden blood dyed the heavens and earth red. Shun Supreme failed. His body and soul were destroyed by the tribulation lightning. As for the Black Tiger, it was also torn to pieces by the lightning formed by the tribulation lightning. However, even so, there were still people who incited the heavenly tribulations. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the entire eastern region became chaotic. At that moment, in the Eastern Wu Imperial Palace, Ji Yufei's divine light began to dissipate. In the end, it became invisible and disappeared without a trace. What's going on? The experts who had just arrived were dumbfounded. At that moment, a group of people also appeared in the palace. The Eastern Wu Imperial Lord was among them. With his cultivation, he was indeed qualified to comprehend the great Tao of martial immortal. Sigh. The Eastern Wu Imperial Lord sighed. The great Tao of martial immortal was too difficult and profound. No one could easily become a martial immortal. It was the same for others. How much one could comprehend depended on oneself. Rumble. After a thunderous rumble, the entire world became silent. Today, I will enter the immortal realm. A furious roar spread throughout the entire eastern region. Millions of living beings were terrified. Even the immortal realm peerless experts couldn't help but change their expressions. There's actually someone who succeeded. All the immortal realm experts felt as though a gigantic mountain suddenly pressed down on their bodies. Although Ji Yufei was also a martial immortal, he could retract and release his aura freely. He wasn't like this newly ascended martial immortal. The might of a martial immortal could shake the heavens and earth, as though it could crush the entire world. Who is it? Who became a martial immortal? The Eastern Wu Imperial Lord directly rushed out. Everyone could no longer sit still and rushed out as well. A black-haired young man stood in the air. Boundless immortal Tao divine light gushed out from him, illuminating the entire heavens and earth. This person was like an unsheathed heavenly sword. It was as though he could break through the heavens and earth at any moment, directly entering the immortal martial realm. It's him. Chapter 40:17. In the extreme origin realm, cultivators who passed the heavenly tribulation would directly become a martial immortal. With a wave of their hand, they could shatter the heavens and earth and ascend to the immortal martial realm. Rumble. In the depths of the eastern region, a thunderous sound rang out. The Lingnan Swordlord stretched out his right hand and an immortal sword appeared in his hand. After that, he directly slashed down towards the heavens. Swish. The resplendent sword light directly soared up into the sky, directly into the starry sky. Everywhere it passed, the stars were directly split apart. This sword seemed to have split the heavens and earth into two. No one could describe the might of this sword. At the same time the Lingnan Swordlord slashed out this sword, the entire eastern region, and even the entire extreme origin realm, all the swords and weapons were trembling. After that, The supreme experts in the eastern region all felt a majestic aura descending from the depths of the heavens. All the experts were indescribably shocked. The Lingnan Swordlord has entered the legendary immortal martial realm? Some half-step martial immortals exclaimed in shock. A single sword slashing out a path to ascension, countless people exclaimed. However, the Lingnan Swordlord didn't step onto the heavenly path. Instead, he directly turned and instantly vanished into the void, directly tearing apart the void. The Lingnan Swordlord was one of the 12 Daolords of the Lingnan Mountains. In the cultivation world of the southern region, the 12 Daolords of the Lingnan Mountains were the supreme ones. However, other than the 12 Daolords, there was also the Devil Refinement Sect and the Primordial Demon Sect. The 12 Daolords didn't dominate the southern region. The Devil Refinement Sect and the Primordial Demon Sect are going to be unlucky. Someone said. The Lingnan Swordlord became an immortal and didn't immediately step onto the heavenly path. This meant that he must have returned to the southern region. Maybe he wanted to establish a foundation for the Lingnan Daolord. At this moment, as the Lingnan Swordlord became an immortal, the terrifying power of the heavenly tribulation began to dissipate. No one dared to try again. Because too many people died, and they were all hegemons of the extreme origin realm. Some of them were even more powerful and terrifying than the Eastern Martial Royal Lord. For example, the Golden Battle Ancestor and Shen Wushang of the Shenwu sect were both supreme geniuses. They were all half-step into the immortal martial realm. Almost all of the big shots who had spoken to Ji Yufei in the hall had failed their tribulations. Only the South Ridge Sword Master had succeeded. The death of more than a dozen big shots was definitely enough to shock the world. The Taiyuan realm was about to be in chaos. This was foreseeable. The fall of more than 10 giants would inevitably result in a power vacuum. Countless people would want to take over, and all kinds of struggles would be unavoidable. However, this had nothing to do with Ji Yufei. Even in the East region, when the news of Shen Supreme's death spread, the entire Shenwu sect was in an uproar. 3 Grand Elders stood out and wanted to push their own people to the position of sect master. The disciples of Supreme God were naturally unwilling to be trampled on by the 3 Great Elders. Right now, the Demon Heaven sect was not in a state of chaos. Since the Thousand Annihilation Demon Master had failed his tribulation, the people in the Demon Heaven sect were not going to sit still. It should be known that the master of the demon sect was an existence that stood above tens of thousands of people and could dictate the life and death of everyone in the demon sect. However, it was very abnormal. The Demon Heaven sect, which should have descended into chaos, was actually very quiet. No one stood out, and no one said that they would fight for the position of sect master. The abnormality of the demon sect attracted the attention of the major forces in the East region. However, someone quickly understood. In the demon sect, weren't the Saintess and the Devil's Son qualified to fight for the position of sect master? There were more than 2 Devil's Sons and Saintess in the demon sect. The demon sect had 3 Devil's Sons and 2 Saintesses. These people were all qualified to fight for the position of sect master. However, the Devil's Sons and Saintesses of the demon sect did not stand out. They were all watching. Even the elders of the demon sect were very calm. Mo Xian was also the demon sect's saintess. Moreover, when Ji Yufei attacked the East Martial Imperial City and forced the East Martial Imperial Lord to lower his head, she followed beside Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei was the #1 martial immortal in the Taiyuan realm. With his support, wouldn't it be easy for Mo Xian to become the demon sect master? The current atmosphere in the demon sect was very strange. Whoever dared to stand out would be courting death. As for the demon sect that Mo Xian belonged to, it was crowded these days. Everyone wanted to know when she would return. Some forces even went up to her to propose marriage. However, they were all turned down by Mo Xian's grandfather. Any organization or genius was useless before a martial immortal. A peak organization like the Demon Heaven sect could be destroyed by a single wave of a martial immortal's hand. All the organizations had come for Ji Yufei, who stood behind Mo Xian. If they could gain the support of a martial immortal, they would immediately become the most powerful organization in the Taiyuan realm. The old relics were extremely clever. How could they not know what the Mo family was planning? At a time like this, even the abandoned disciple of the Yin Moon demon sect, Mo Feng, was very popular in the eastern region. The sect master of the Yin Moon demon sect even personally went to the imperial capital to invite Mo Feng back. However, Mo Feng couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the Dark Moon demon sect's sect master. Although the sect master of the Yin Moon demon sect had been rebuffed, he did not even dare to say anything. He left the imperial capital with the people of the Yin Moon demon sect gloomily. The senior uncle of the demonic wind sect was filled with regret. If he hadn't fallen out with Jiyu Fei, the Yin-Yu demon sect would have replaced the demon sky sect and become the #1 power in the demon sect. However, it was all too late now. Although Mo Feng was a member of the demonic sects, there were still many organizations that extended an olive branch to him. There were also large clans that expressed their love for him. However, Mo Feng did not waver. He only guarded the foundation for Jiyu Fei obediently. He did not dare to relax at all. However, with his cultivation, he gradually lost control of the people below him. After all, there were many people with higher cultivation than him in the imperial capital of the Dongwu Empire. Any random prince or princess was an innate cultivator. It was even more so for the Dongwu imperial lord. If it were not for the fact that everyone feared Jiyu Fei, who stood behind Mo Feng would have died countless times already. Time passed. Jiyu Fei and Mo Xian seemed to have disappeared. Half a month had passed, yet they still had not returned. Many people became rather restless. When Jiyu Fei and Mo Xian did not appear for 3 months, people in the imperial capital began to clamor for Mo Feng to leave. Bastard, kill. Mo Feng was furious. He directly sent out the Dongwu guards to capture all the people who spread the rumors and execute them. For a moment, heads rolled in the imperial capital. Blood dyed the streets in front of the palace red. Whoever dares to speak nonsense will be killed without mercy. Mo Feng was decisive. For a moment, all the people who wanted to cause trouble in the imperial capital shut up. Even the important figures frowned. They did not expect Mo Feng to be so murderous. Unknowingly, Jiyu Fei and Mo Xian had disappeared for half a year. During that time, the eastern region was in turmoil. The Shunwu sect was in chaos. The various elders fought. The extremely powerful sect actually split into 2 sects. As a result, only 2 of the 3 supreme organizations in the eastern region remained. The Dongwu Empire was still powerful. It ruled over billions of territories. The position of the Demon Heaven sect's sect master was still vacant. However, different voices had already appeared in the sect. However, no one dared to offend the Mo family. This was because the Mo family had released a shocking piece of news. Mo Xian's soul lamp was getting brighter and brighter. The brighter the soul lamp was, the stronger Mo Xian's soul was. At this time, the news of Jiyu Fei suppressing the entire empire finally reached the divine martial country and the Wu village. Medicine Master Wu and Wu Ji were dumbfounded. They never expected Jiyu Fei to be so powerful that he could fight against an empire alone. That was an empire that ruled over endless territories and had 100,000 innate soldiers. The power of an empire was not something a small vassal state like the divine martial country could compare to. Especially the second granduncle of the Wu village, he sighed all day long. He regretted that he missed the chance for the Wu clan to rise. It seemed like the Wu clan could only hole up in these 10 li and 8 villages. At this time, at the top of the reincarnation peak in the central region, a black-clothed woman sat on the ground in the Samsara hall. A divine sword was stabbed in front of her. Beside the black-clothed woman was an ancient well that was spitting out chaotic essence. This black-clothed woman was Mo Xian. The Samsara hall was indeed a sacred place for cultivation. Mo Xian had not been idle in the past 6 months. She had been cultivating, and her cultivation had gradually increased. Mo Xian's cultivation had reached the peak of the innate realm. Her cultivation could break through to the true realm at any time and become a true realm martial artist. The true martial realm was 1 level higher than the innate realm. Some people were stuck at the innate realm for 500 years and couldn't break through until their lifespans were exhausted. However, there were some heaven-defying people who could break through the innate realm at a young age and become a true realm martial artist. Mo Xian was undoubtedly one of these rare martial arts geniuses. She was not even 20 years old and was much younger than the three devil sons and the other saintess of the demon clan. However, her martial arts talent was truly shocking. Mo Xian knew that if her cultivation really broke through to the true realm, she would be the youngest true realm martial artist in the history of the demon clan. Her future would be limitless. Especially when she was following Ji Yu Fei, a martial immortal. To be able to become a martial immortal's disciple was definitely something that countless martial artists would be extremely jealous of. At this moment, outside the Samsara Ancient Hall, Ancestor Reincarnation and another elder set up a tent and guarded the outside of the Samsara Ancient Hall. The important figures of the Samsara Hall had also come. On the Reincarnation Peak, in front of the Samsara Ancient Hall, there were more than 10 incomparably powerful martial artists gathered. The Samsara Hall had completely sealed the news of Ji Yu Fei and Mo Xian challenging the Reincarnation Peak. No one in the outside world knew that Ji Yu Fei and Mo Xian were in the Samsara Hall. It was definitely an extremely embarrassing thing for someone to kill their way in and rob the sacred hall. Boom! At that moment, the Samsara Ancient Well, which had been silent for half a year, suddenly shook. The entire Samsara temple shook along with it. Ancient runes appeared on the surface of the Samsara temple. What happened? In front of the Samsara Ancient Hall, Ancestor Reincarnation and the others were inexplicably shocked. Chapter 4018. Rumble. In the Samsara Ancient Palace, the Samsara Ancient Well was shaking. Waves of chaotic energy rushed out of the well, causing the entire Samsara Ancient Palace to shake. Soon, even the entire Reincarnation Peak was shaking. How is this possible? Everyone on the Reincarnation Peak was dumbfounded. The well in the Samsara Ancient Palace had never acted so strangely before. Could it be that Ji Yu Fei was still alive? No one knew the details of the Samsara Ancient Well better than the Reincarnation Patriarch. Many of the patriarchs of the Samsara Temple had entered the Samsara Ancient Well before. The patriarchs of the Samsara Temple had never been able to return. There was once a half-step immortal martial patriarch of the Samsara Temple who had jumped into the Samsara Ancient Well. Then, there was no then. That patriarch never came out. His coming out. Mo Xian stared at the Samsara Ancient Well in shock. At this time, a ball of divine light flashed continuously at the bottom of the Samsara Ancient Well. 9 dragon-like chaotic energy rushed out of the divine light. The chaotic energy rushed into the chaotic void and frantically devoured the chaotic energy in the chaotic void. In the middle of that ball of divine light, a blurry figure was sitting cross-legged. That person was Ji Yu Fei. He was drawing upon the endless chaotic energy in the chaotic void. Roar! A ferocious demonic shadow appeared on his body and roared. Powerful demonic power burst out from the demonic shadow. Good. Even if I have to give up my cultivation, I will destroy you. Ji Yu Fei roared and his body shook. In the next moment, countless star-like divine light surged out of his body. This was the result of his 6 months of hard work. Every ball of divine light was like a treasure of power. In the next moment, the entire divine light source exploded. The 9 dragon-like chaotic energy also exploded. The entire chaotic void was annihilated. This power was too strong. The demonic shadow that emerged from Ji Yu Fei's body also roared. Demonic chains appeared on his body and shattered in the chaotic void. As one of the demonic chains shattered, the balls of divine light on Ji Yu Fei's body also disappeared. That was Ji Yu Fei's power being obliterated. As the demonic chains continued to break, Ji Yu Fei's eyes grew brighter and brighter. The power in his body grew weaker and weaker. At the same time, the demonic power in his body disappeared. The demonic shadow on Ji Yu Fei's body was also doing its best to circulate the power of the demonic path. Roar! Ji Yu Fei fiercely roared towards the sky. The last dozens of demonic chains on his body shattered at the same time. His body continued to crack open with wounds so deep that his bones could be seen. His entire martial body looked like it was about to collapse. His hair was disheveled and bloodstained. After breaking dozens of demonic chains in a single breath, Ji Yufei almost died. At this time, he was extremely weak, and his cultivation was almost obliterated by the power of the demonic path. Raw. On Ji Yufei's body, a demonic shadow unwillingly dissipated in the void, completely vanishing into thin air. At the same time, countless cracks appeared on the reincarnation ancient well, as if it would shatter at any time. Outside the reincarnation ancient well, everyone who saw this through the gate was stunned, especially Patriarch Reincarnation. That was the reincarnation ancient well that had existed for countless years. How could it crack? The origin of the world was originally all-encompassing and could evolve everything in the world. The power of reincarnation was also one of the origin of the world. However, at this time, as the origin divine pearl of the world shattered, all the power returned to chaos. A trace of the power of reincarnation within the reincarnation ancient well also dissipated. Return to my true self. Return to me. At the bottom of the reincarnation ancient well, Ji Yufei roared towards the sky. The next moment, countless sealed memories surged into his mind. He remembered everything. The first demon of the primogenitor. How ruthless. Ji Yufei clenched his fists. This guy actually used his life as the price to force me into reincarnation and seal my cultivation and all my memories. It was too ruthless. If I hadn't broken the first seal, recovered some of my cultivation and memories, and obtained the origin divine pearl of the world, wouldn't I really have fallen into reincarnation forever? The origin divine pearl of the world was extremely rare. It was a supreme treasure that could nurture a part of the world. Even an extreme Tao Supreme would be envious of it. However, now, this supreme treasure was used by Ji Yufei to destroy the seal that the first demon of the primogenitor had placed on him. Ji Yufei had not only sacrificed a supreme treasure, but also his own cultivation. Even his eternal level supreme martial body was crippled. He had lost his eternal divinity and directly fell to the immortal divine martial body. To Ji Yufei, his cultivation could be said to have been destroyed. At this moment, he suddenly felt his chest heat up. Traces of warmth slowly spread from his sternum to the rest of his body. Unexpectedly, his injuries were gradually healing. Ji Yufei was shocked and hurriedly looked inside. The next moment, under the perception of his divine will, he seemed to see a mass of divine light that was tens of thousands of times more dazzling than the divine sun. An extremely weak trace of eternal divinity was contained in his sternum. Heaven never bars one's way. The first demon of the primogenitor, you have wasted your life. Ji Yufei laughed heartily. He was still alive, but the first demon of the primogenitor had been destroyed in body and soul. The first demon of the eternal realm was a supreme demon, and he had risked his life to kill a supreme demon. Most importantly, there was still a trace of eternal divinity left in his body. With this as a guide, he could cultivate the eternal martial body and return to the peak. This bone body has eternal divinity. Let's call it the eternal real bone, Ji Yufei muttered to himself. He still had the cultivation of the immortal realm left, but it should be enough in the Great Origin realm. The Great Origin realm should be a low-level world, where immortals were already the most powerful existences. The heaven and earth laws of the low-level world could not support the cultivation of experts above the immortal realm, and the cultivation of creatures in the low-level world could not break through to the realm above the immortal realm. Ji Yufei directly opened his inner world and walked inside. Just after he left, the surrounding primal chaos chi immediately surged and drowned the place where he had just been. This primal chaos chi was extraordinary, and existences at the immortal realm could not withstand it at all. A wisp of primal chaos chi could crush the void. After hiding in his inner world, Ji Yufei directly went to the immortal transformation pool. He wanted to restore his immortal martial body and improve his cultivation before returning to the Great Origin realm. After all, there were still some things he had to deal with there. Master, as Ji Yufei walked, the members of the Meng clan all retreated to the side and bowed respectfully to him. The Meng clan thrived in Ji Yufei's inner world. Over the years, the population of the Meng clan had grown to tens of thousands of people. Because the heaven and earth spirit chi was abundant here, every member of the Meng clan was suitable for cultivation. Some members of the Meng clan were even born with innate Tao or divine bodies. When they cultivated, they could achieve twice the results with half the effort and much faster than other members of the Meng clan. Knowing that Ji Yufei had returned, the old clan leader of the Meng clan quickly came to greet him. Without Ji Yufei, there would be no Meng clan today. Ji Yufei was the benefactor of the Meng clan, and even the old clan leader had to kneel to greet Ji Yufei. "Master, you haven't been back for a long time. Should we inform Mistress?" the old clan leader asked as he stood by the side. At this time, Ji Yufei directly plucked the immortal peach fruit beside the immortal transformation lake and ate it. The mistress that the old clan leader mentioned was naturally Yang Er. Thinking about it, ever since he brought little Ling Xian back, he hadn't returned. Little Ling Xian had already grown up. Thinking of little Ling Xian, Ji Yufei couldn't help but think of his daughter, Ji Yuling. Ever since his daughter stepped on the ancient road of the human race, he hadn't seen her again. He didn't know how much his daughter had grown. Ji Yufei wasn't worried about Ji Yuling. After all, he had handed the golden divine truncheon to Ji Yuling. That was an emperor-level divine weapon. With the golden divine truncheon in hand, unless a supreme being made a move, who could be Ling Er's match? Moreover, the human world was different from the ancestral realm. The human world had the power of heavenly punishment, which could suppress all supreme beings. No supreme being would dare to challenge the power of heavenly punishment. Don't alarm her. Ji Yufei didn't want Yang Er to see him in a sorry state. "Yes, Master." The old clan leader nodded. "All of you can leave," Ji Yufei said. "Yes." The old clan leader hurriedly bowed to Ji Yufei and left. After eating the peach in his hand, Ji Yufei directly jumped into the immortal transformation pool. The moment he entered the pool, he only felt incomparably comfortable. He felt like he was walking on air. Strands of extremely pure immortal Tao essence drilled into Ji Yufei's body through his pores. The wounds on his body quickly disappeared, not even a scar was left behind. His flesh, tendons, and bones became even more powerful. Ji Yufei only felt his chest heating up as the immortal Tao essence frantically gathered towards his eternal true bone. His entire breastbone was sparkling and translucent, like a supreme divine jade. He soaked in the immortal transformation pool for an entire day before coming ashore. The immortal Tao essence in the immortal transformation pool actually didn't have much of an effect on him. Ji Yufei's cultivation didn't increase, but his martial physique became even stronger. The strongest martial physique, the strongest power. Even in the immortal god realm, Ji Yufei was confident that he could use his powerful martial physique to challenge immortal kings, let alone immortal gods. "It's time to leave." Ji Yufei changed into a clean set of clothes and left the immortal transformation lake. He tore open the void and walked out. Even though he was mentally prepared, his martial physique was still almost torn apart by the primal chaos chi. Cracks appeared on his body, and blood seeped out. He soared into the sky towards the exit. Coming down was easy, but going up was hard. Ji Yufei didn't know how long he flew. Just as he was about to give up, a bright spot suddenly appeared in the sky. "The tremors are gone." At this moment, within the Samsara hall, Mo Xian stared at the Samsara ancient well in shock. This ancient well was almost ruined, and it was covered in cracks. It no longer breathed in and out the primal chaos chi. It was just like an ordinary well. The Samsara ancient well is actually ruined. Patriarch Samsara's heart was dripping blood in front of the Samsara hall. Boom! At this moment, there was a huge explosion, and the entire ancient well suddenly exploded. What? Chapter 4019. The reincarnation ancient well had exploded. The higher-ups of the Samsara temple, who had guarded the well for countless years, were dumbfounded. Even the most powerful divine weapon in the Taiyuan realm could not leave a mark on it when it was wielded by the most powerful person. But now, it was broken. How is this possible? Patriarch Reincarnation was dumbfounded. The destruction of the reincarnation ancient well was equivalent to destroying the foundation of the Samsara temple. It was precisely because of the reincarnation ancient well that the Samsara temple had been able to survive for so many generations. Every generation had a supreme existence that could suppress a domain. Now that the foundation had been destroyed, it would be impossible for the Samsara temple to maintain its current status. In the central region of the Taiyuan realm, there were many experts, countless sects, and numerous powerful clans. This was the most prosperous region of the Taiyuan realm. The cultivation world of the central region was much stronger than the cultivation world of the other 4 regions combined. The Samsara temple was one of the top forces in the central region. But now that the reincarnation ancient well had been destroyed, the Samsara temple would decline in less than 100 years. Then, it would be suppressed by other forces and become a second-rate force. Of course, as long as Patriarch Reincarnation was alive, the Samsara temple would not be destroyed by other forces. At this moment, a black hole appeared where the reincarnation ancient well had been. Suddenly, a hand reached out from the black hole. Everyone was startled. Someone came out of the Samsara temple. Even Patriarch Reincarnation was shocked. Since ancient times, no one had ever come out after entering the reincarnation ancient well. Never. Ji Fei. Mozian who had been guarding the ancient hall, was surprised and happy. She had not left the ancient hall for the past 6 months and had been guarding the well. Mozian cultivation had reached the peak of the Carnate realm. It was only a matter of time before she entered the true realm. She had the power and the divine sword that Ji Fei had given her. She could use the power of killing immortals and gods 3 times. Even Patriarch Reincarnation did not dare to provoke her or step into the Samsara temple. Rumble. Another hand reached out from the black hole. The surrounding void was constantly collapsing and reforming. This person seemed to have crawled out from the broken void. Then, the 2 hands that stretched out from the black hole exerted force, and a head popped out from the black hole. The man's hair was unkempt, and his clothes were tattered. He looked like a person who had crawled out of a garbage dump. He was in an extremely sorry state. Ji Fei, is that really you? Mozian stared at that person and her voice was trembling with excitement. Who else could it be if not me? That person said snappily. Ji Fei? Mozian was about to rush over. Don't come any closer, Ji Fei hurriedly said. Even with his cultivation and his powerful martial body, he couldn't withstand the primal chaos current, let alone Mozian. If Mozian got close, she would probably be torn to shreds by the chaotic currents. Mozian immediately stopped. Ji Fei crawled out from the black hole with difficulty. The devouring power of the black hole was too strong, as if it could devour everything. The entire Samsara ancient palace was shaking. Mozian held the divine sword that was stabbed into the ground with one hand and used all her strength to resist the devouring power from the black hole. What's going on? What's happening? A powerful devouring power surged out from the Samsara ancient palace. Some of the weaker cultivators flew towards the gate of the Samsara ancient palace and were devoured by the black hole. Ancestor, save me. Another expert of the Samsara ancient palace was devoured by the black hole. Roar. Ancestor Reincarnation roared angrily. Powerful godly state energy burst out, trying to resist the devouring power from the Samsara ancient palace. However, even Ji Fei couldn't resist it. Ancestor Reincarnation only lasted for 2 breaths of time before vomiting blood. Run. Ancestor Reincarnation took out a divine-grade magic treasure. Boom. The divine-level Dharma treasure exploded right in front of the gate of the Samsara ancient palace. The entire void shrank and expanded in an instant. The devouring power from the Samsara ancient palace weakened immediately. Although it only lasted for a few breaths of time, it was enough for Ancestor Reincarnation to save everyone on the reincarnation peak. Ancestor Reincarnation waved his sleeves and all the disciples on the reincarnation peak were sucked into his sleeves. Ancestor Reincarnation turned into a ray of divine light and soared into the sky, escaping far away in an instant. Just as Reincarnation Patriarch escaped, an extremely terrifying devouring power erupted from the Samsara ancient palace. In just an instant, the entire Samsara ancient palace crumbled. A ray of swordlight broke through the void and rushed out of it. It was Mosian. She used the power that Jiyu Fei gave her to escape. Then, the entire reincarnation peak started to collapse from the top to the bottom. In just 5 breaths of time, the reincarnation peak disappeared from the ground. Roar. A terrifying roar came from the dust that filled the sky. It was Jiyu Fei's voice. In the void, a black hole appeared and swallowed everything. Endless dust was sucked into the black hole. Even the stars in the sky were on the verge of collapsing. At this moment, Jiyu Fei was in an even more sorry state. His body was covered in blood. If Jiyu Fei hadn't returned to his inner world, eaten the peach of immortality, jumped into the immortal transformation pool, and strengthened his martial body to the level of an immortal king, he would have been dead long ago. A mere black hole can't stop me from returning. Jiyu Fei roared to the sky. His body shook and he rushed out of the black hole with all his might. Roar. Jiyu Fei roared to the sky. A terrifying power rippled out for 100,000 miles. All the clouds in the sky were dispersed. The stars in the sky fell and shattered. All the living beings within 100,000-kilometer radius felt a terrifying aura, and all of them trembled in fear. It's the direction of the Samsara Temple. Could it be that the Samsara Temple's patriarch reincarnation has successfully taken that step and become an immortal? Someone said in shock. In an instant, the Samsara Temple attracted the attention of countless important figures. Some of them came out of seclusion and rushed to the Samsara Temple, wanting to find out what had happened. At this moment, after Jiyu Fei rushed out of the black hole in the void disappeared. The secret of the Samsara ancient well was that there was a divine pearl of chaotic origin at the bottom of the well. The ancient well would absorb the essence of heaven and earth, causing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth within a 10,000-mile radius of the Samsara Temple to be extremely abundant. In particular, the Samsara force, the yin-yang force, the chaotic force, and all kinds of primitive powers of heaven and earth gathered in the ancient well. The Samsara Temple was called the Samsara Ancient Well because its founding patriarch had comprehended the Samsara force beside the ancient well and created the heavenly Samsara art. At this moment, everyone in the Samsara Temple looked at the shocking scene in front of them with indescribable shock. The ancestral land, all the senior members of the Samsara Temple had ugly expressions on their faces. It should be known that their ancestral land had been destroyed. The destruction of the ancestral land was definitely a devastating blow to the Samsara Temple. Damn it! The Samsara Patriarch was filled with hatred, but there was nothing he could do. Who asked the other party to be stronger than him? In this chaotic world, whoever was strong would be the boss, and whoever was weak would be the grandson. Just as Jiyu Fei came out of seclusion, the eastern region was in a turbulent state. Some powerful forces wanted to occupy the Eastern Martial Imperial Palace, but they were all beaten up by the Eastern Martial Imperial Lord. All of them were badly battered, and some of them even had their limbs broken and their dantians destroyed. I will kill anyone who steps into the Imperial Palace. The Eastern Martial Imperial Lord said this. Everyone who heard this was inexplicably shocked. Those who had intended to take action also became timid at this moment. They immediately hid their heads like turtles. The Eastern Martial Dynasty was not an ordinary cultivation force. Humph! How arrogant! At this moment, a figure rushed over from the horizon and arrived directly above the Eastern Martial Dynasty's imperial palace. Who goes there? A roar was heard, and a strong man who looked like a black iron tower walked out. With every step he took, the ground shook. The black iron tower-like man stopped, then stretched out his hand and pounced towards the man in the sky. Kill. The person was high up in the sky. He pressed his right hand down. Boom. Endless spiritual energy gathered crazily. You're courting death. The strong man who looked like a black iron tower roared and directly collided with the big hand. There was a loud explosion that shook thousands of miles. The black iron tower fell from the sky and directly smashed into the ground, causing the entire ground to shake violently. General Tai. Seeing this scene, the Eastern Martial Imperial Lord was also shocked. This General Tai's thwart cultivation method could even put up a fight against those sect ancestors. At this moment, The surrounding warriors saw this scene and were all stunned. The Eastern Martial Imperial family was the #1 cultivation family in the Eastern region. They were extremely powerful, and someone actually dared to challenge the Eastern Martial Imperial family. Can't even withstand one blow. The person in the sky sneered. At this time, the entire Eastern region had fallen into chaos. A mysterious force from the outer region took advantage of the Eastern region's emptiness and killed their way into the Eastern region, wanting to occupy Gu Fei's territory. Half a year had passed, and there was still no news of Gu Fei and Mo Xian. Many people thought that Gu Fei and Mo Xian were dead. Otherwise, they would have returned after so long. The Shunwu sect and the demonic Sky sect were also fighting each other. When the Shunwu sect was in chaos, the demonic Sky sect took the opportunity to invade and occupy the Shunwu sect's territory. However, a skinny camel was still bigger than a horse. Although the Shunwu sect leader, Shen Wushang, had fallen, there were many experts in the Shunwu sect. It was easier said than done for the demonic Sky sect to take down the Shunwu sect. Now, someone was targeting the Eastern Martial Imperial family. Scram, or you will die. The Eastern Martial Imperial Lord stared at the figure in the sky and said coldly, "Do you really think you can kill me?" The person laughed. Die. Chapter 4020. A mysterious expert had killed his way to the Dongwu dynasty's imperial capital. A strong aura spread throughout the place, filling every inch of space. Countless people in the imperial capital were terrified to the extreme. Kill. Overlord Dongwu directly rushed into the sky. With a single punch, he blasted a fist-shaped hole in the clouds that shrouded the sky. A figure appeared from behind the clouds. This person was covered in a black robe, revealing only a pair of eyes that shone brightly. Bam! The black-robed man stretched out his right hand and pressed down. A violent palm force came down and instantly collided with Imperial Lord Dongwu's fist force. Powerful energy fluctuations spread out, dispersing all the clouds in the sky. Two figures moved at high speed, and extremely dull sounds of collisions rang out continuously, like the rumbling of thunder. The ordinary people in the imperial city who did not have cultivation were so scared that they hid in their houses and shivered. Not to mention half of the martial artists, even the Xiantian martial artists and the True Realm martial artists could not withstand the terrifying pressure from the sky and had no choice but to retreat. Martial artists, especially martial artists with high cultivation, were especially sensitive to the powerful pressure that erupted from the body of this kind of martial artist. On the contrary, ordinary people did not have the feeling of being pressed down to the point where they could not straighten their backs, and even their souls were trembling. Who are you? High up in the sky, Imperial Lord Dongwu became more and more shocked. This guy's cultivation and combat strength were on par with his. Where did this guy come from? This guy was definitely not from the Eastern region because Imperial Lord Dongwu knew very well how many God Realm experts there were in the Eastern region. Wu Feng, why haven't you taken down this guy after so long? At this moment, a voice came from the sky. Royal Lord Dongwu was taken aback. He hurriedly glanced over and saw many powerful figures appearing in the distant sky. The auras that these people exuded were not any weaker than his. 9 God Realm experts. How is this possible? The Eastern Wu Imperial Lord's shock was no small matter. It seemed that these fellows had planned this beforehand. These guys, on the roof of the Imperial City's palace, Mo Feng, who was standing on the tiles, saw this scene and his face turned ugly. 10 Deity Realm martial artists had arrived. It looked like these fellows were determined to destroy the Dongwu dynasty. Such power was enough to change a dynasty or destroy any major faction. Barbarian Bear, come at me if you can. The God Realm expert called Wu Feng said angrily. You are divine state warriors of the central region. What are you trying to do in the East region? The Eastern Martial Imperial Lord's expression was extremely ugly. Wu Feng and Barbarian Xiong were both famous divine realm martial artists in the central region. However, Imperial Lord Dongwu had never seen these two fellows before. He had only heard of their names. Eastern Martial Imperial Lord, surrender if you know what's good for you. Join my crazy martial sect and we can still guarantee your clan's safety. Otherwise, I'll exterminate your entire clan. A tall and ferocious-looking divine realm warrior shouted at Imperial Lord Dongwu, who was fighting with Wu Feng. Crazy martial sect. Royal Lord Dongwu's expression changed drastically when he heard this. Central region crazy martial sect. Demonic Wind's expression also changed drastically when he heard this. The crazy martial sect had only been established for a few years. However, it had quickly become one of the strongest factions in the central region. The crazy martial sect gathered experts everywhere. Regardless of whether they were experts from the righteous path or the evil path, they would not let a single one of them off. However, for those who refused to surrender, there was only one fate: death. Boom. High up in the sky, Royal Lord Dongwu was distracted and was sent flying by Wu Feng's punch. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. You want me to surrender? Could it be that you are stronger than martial immortals? Royal Lord Dongwu looked at the 9 deity realm experts in disdain and sneered. Do you think that martial immortal master of yours will return? Wu Feng's tone was like the cold wind from the extreme north. It was incomparably cold. Haha, since we dared to come, we have already investigated everything. Your martial immortal master has disappeared for over half a year, the ferocious-looking divine state expert said while laughing. Is my master someone you can imagine? Demonic Wind said disdainfully. Insignificant ant, you are not qualified to speak. A god-state martial artist waved his hand and tried to extinguish the demonic wind on the roof of the palace without any hesitation. Whoosh! Just as Mo Feng's body and soul were about to be destroyed, a figure suddenly appeared beside him and slashed out with a sword. A bright sword light instantly rushed out and directly broke through the mighty force coming from the sky and soared into the sky. What? The deity realm expert in the sky was shocked and he quickly dodged. The extremely sharp sword light directly brushed past his body, and a piece of his sleeve floated down from the air. The deity realm expert was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He was almost killed by the sword. It was so dangerous. Who is it? The deity realm experts in the sky were shocked. They quickly looked down and saw a black-clothed lady standing beside Demonic Wind. The black-clothed lady was holding a sword in her hand. An immortal aura spread out from the sword in the black-clothed lady's hand. Immortal weapon? The deity realm experts' eyes lit up and they wanted to snatch the sword from the black-clothed lady. Mozian. At this moment, Demonic Wind exclaimed. The person who suddenly appeared and saved his life was actually the saintess of the devil sect, Mozian. What? She is Mozian? Someone was indescribably shocked. Didn't Mozian disappear with Ji Yufei? Why is she here? At this moment, the 10 deity realm experts of the crazy martial sect were shocked and they were sweating profusely. The 10 experts looked around anxiously. When they realized that Mozian was alone, they became spirited again. Some of the deity realm experts even stared at the sword in Mozian hand greedily. Little girl, you are courting death. The fierce-looking deity realm expert rushed down from the sky and grabbed Mozian. You are the one who is courting death. Mozian suddenly smiled. Then, an immortal sword light rushed out from her hand and slashed the guy in half. What? Everyone was stunned when they witnessed this scene. That was an expert at the godrank realm, yet he was actually killed by a single sword strike from a little girl? How is this possible? The leader of the deity realm experts muttered to himself. She killed Barbarian Bear. Wu Feng was also dumbfounded. Barbarian Bear's cultivation was extremely powerful and was on par with him, killing a deity realm expert like killing a dog. Demonic Wind looked at Mozian. This kind of combat strength was too terrifying. However, he didn't know that Mozian could only unleash one more attack. After that attack, she would return to her original form. However, this sword of hers directly suppressed all the divine realm experts of the crazy martial sect who were present. All of you, scram. Mozian glanced at the deity realm experts in the sky coldly. Little girl, you are just relying on a sword and you dare to be impudent in front of us. The leader of the deity realm experts stared at Mozian and said coldly. Fight me if you are not happy. Mozian stared at the leader of the group. You, The leader of the deity realm expert's expression changed, but he didn't dare to attack. One should know that even Barbarian Bear was killed by Mosyan with a single attack. "Where's the master?" Demonic Wind asked. "How would I know?" Mosyan said impatiently. "Friends, let's attack together and kill these two little guys," the leader of the deity realm experts said murderously. The other deity realm experts hesitated. No one dared to be the first to attack. Barbarian Bear's ending was clear to all. Whoever attacked first would suffer Mosyan's attack and would be in danger of dying. Cultivators who could reach the deity realm were all extremely smart. Who would want to risk their lives to attack? Although deity realm experts weren't martial immortals yet, their lifespan was much longer than ordinary cultivators. They could live for thousands of years or even longer. Who would want to die? Ha ha! A bunch of cowards. Crazy martial sect. They are merely SOSO. Eastern Martial Imperial Lord laughed and said, "How dare you? Presumptuous." Those deity realm experts of the crazy martial sect were furious. When they thought of how powerful and terrifying their sect master was, these deity realm experts couldn't help but change their expressions. The sect master of the crazy martial sect was decisive in killing. He would exterminate an entire sect if he didn't agree with them. His way of doing things was even more devilish than those demons. "I am presumptuous. What can you do about it?" Eastern Martial Imperial Lord said proudly. Mosyan appeared. Master should be appearing soon. As long as Jiu Fei didn't die, no one could touch the Eastern Martial Imperial family. "Kill." The leader of the deity realm experts roared in anger and charged towards Eastern Martial Imperial Lord. Boom! Boundless golden radiance burst out from his body. It was as if a golden sun suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. The entire void was shaking. Clang! A metallic sound came from the golden light. Two golden blades directly slashed at Imperial Lord Dongwu, instantly tearing the void between heaven and earth. Extreme Dragon Mystic Technique. Eastern Martial Imperial Lord roared in anger and attacked with all his strength. Boundless dragon chi rushed out from his body and a giant dragon appeared between heaven and earth. The giant dragon claw shattered the golden blades that were slashing towards the leader of the deity realm experts. Preposterous. The divine sun soared into the sky and released an even stronger wave of energy, smashing the dragon claw. Divine Dragon Tail Whip. Eastern Martial Imperial Lord transformed into a giant dragon and swung his tail towards the golden radiance. The violent energy shook the heavens and earth. That ball of sun-like divine light was directly slapped away. The golden light dissipated, and a figure appeared in the void. However, at this moment, those deity realm experts of the crazy martial sect who had yet to attack exploded into clouds of blood mist in the void. What? Seeing this scene, the leader of the deity realm experts was scared out of his wits. Chapter 40:21. The black-clothed youth, with his hands behind his back, slowly walked over. The 8 divine stage martial artists of the Mad Martial sect didn't even have the chance to let out a scream before they were directly smashed into balls of blood mist, their bodies and souls destroyed. Wu Feng, the divine realm warrior who could fight endlessly with the Eastern Martial Imperial Lord, was so scared that he wet his pants. Those were all God-state martial artists. Even in the middle region, they were great figures. Yet, these great figures had actually been annihilated just like that. This was something that Wu Feng found hard to believe. However, the truth was right in front of him. The person who killed the 8 divine realm warriors was the black-clothed young man who came from afar. This guy killed a divine realm warrior as easily as killing an ant. Could this person be the martial immortal master of the Eastern Martial Imperial Lord? Wu Feng's soul was trembling. Boom! At this moment, the power of a divine realm warrior exploded. The golden divine light illuminated the entire area. The divine realm warrior of the crazy martial sect tried his best to escape. He instantly turned into a golden ray of light and soared into the sky. However, the black-clothed young man stretched out his right hand and grabbed the golden ray of light that soared into the sky. The golden ray immediately flew towards the black-clothed young man and was caught by him. Don't kill me." A terrified voice came from the golden ray of light. Within the golden ray of light, a blurry figure could be seen. Bang! The black-clothed young man did not speak. He clenched his fist and crushed the golden ray of light, turning it into specks of golden light and dissipating in the void. Another divine realm warrior died in the hands of the black-clothed young man. Wu Feng trembled. This black-clothed young man was too powerful. Even the boss was not his match. The boss was the most powerful existence among them. The unlucky guy who was killed by Jiyu Fei was really unlucky. Master, Royal Lord Dongwu bowed respectfully to the black-robed youth, not daring to show any neglect. At this moment, all the warriors who saw this scene were inexplicably shocked. That was the Eastern Martial Imperial Lord. With him, the Eastern Martial dynasty could continue to exist. This person who stood at the peak of the Eastern region had become the servant of this black-clothed young man. Master, Mo Feng also bowed to the black-clothed young man. This black-clothed young man was Jiyu Fei. Central Domain Crazy Martial Sect. Jiyu Fei said indifferently. This, Wu Feng shivered and even forgot to escape. Are you not going to tell me anything about the crazy martial sect? Jiyu Fei looked at Wu Feng. Wu Feng was even more flustered. For a moment, he did not know what to say. That was a martial immortal. Normally, the divine level experts that appeared to be high and above, the invincible divine level experts, were merely ant-like existences before a martial immortal. If the other party wanted to kill him, they only needed to move a finger to kill him countless times. Haha. What deity state? He's just a coward. Mo Feng laughed out loudly with a look of disdain. At this time, how could Wu Feng dare to say anything? Normally, if a puny Xiantian realm cultivator dared to speak to him in such a manner, he would have long since slapped him to death. It must be known that if an immortal realm cultivator did not appear, a divine-level expert would be an invincible existence in the supreme origin realm. If a sect had a divine-level expert, it could continue to be passed down. The reason why Jiyu Fei did not kill Wu Feng was because he wanted to understand the crazy martial sect from Wu Feng. The crazy martial sect seemed to be very strong. When he was in the central domain, he had heard people talking about the crazy martial sect. Even the Samsara Palace was afraid of the crazy martial sect. Even the Samsara Palace's ancestor Samsara did not dare to provoke the madmen of the crazy martial sect. Some people said that the reason why the crazy martial sect was so rude and unreasonable, killing people and exterminating people, was because they had a powerful background and a supreme martial immortal. Of course, this was only a rumor. Even Wu Feng had not seen the true face of the crazy martial sect's patriarch. From Wu Feng's words, Jiyu Fei and the others had some understanding of the crazy martial sect. The crazy martial sect was a cultivation force that had only appeared in recent years. However, the crazy martial sect had developed too quickly and its disciples were mixed. Being targeted by the crazy martial sect would be a disaster. If they did not submit, they would die. There was no room for negotiation. Regardless of good or evil, as long as it was a martial Dao expert, the crazy martial sect would recruit them. The current crazy martial sect could be said to be full of experts. However, this time, the crazy martial sect had kicked an iron plate. They actually wanted to take advantage of Jiyu Fei's absence to attack the Eastern Martial dynasty. This was not a good thing. The news of Jiyu Fei's return quickly spread throughout the imperial capital, then the entire Eastern Martial dynasty and the entire Eastern domain. The whole world was shocked. This was a martial immortal, a pitilessly powerful person. If they could hug the leg of a martial immortal, they could dominate the entire Supreme Origin realm and become the #1 clan in the Supreme Origin realm. But now, the people of Wu Village had already realized that they had missed a chance to conquer the Supreme Origin realm. Just as Jiyu Fei returned, the Southern Domain's Lingnan Swordmaster destroyed the Primordial Fei sect and the Demon Refinement sect by himself. When the news spread, the whole world was shocked. Currently, the Dao sects reigned supreme in the Southern Domain. However, this situation would not last for long. Unless the Lingnan Swordmaster did not go to the upper realm and stayed in the Supreme Origin realm to oversee the Lingnan Daoist sect. Otherwise, as long as the Lingnan Swordmaster left, the Dao sects would be in trouble. The Lingnan Swordmaster was the second martial immortal in the Supreme Origin realm after Ji Fei. With one slash of his sword, he split the primogenitor mountain of the primordial Fei sect in half. With one slash, he split the demon god temple of the demon refinement sect in half. After destroying the two great sects in the southern mountains, the Lingnan Swordmaster sat cross-legged at the peak of Lingnan for 3 days and 3 nights. Then, on the morning of the 4th day, he turned into a sword light and soared into the sky, flying in the direction of the Eastern Martial Dynasty. Old Ancestor is going to. At the peak of Lingnan, several old men looked at each other in shock. I heard that Ji Fei is back. An old man with white hair and eyebrows suddenly sighed and said. When the other 2 old men heard this, their expressions changed. Then, a melodious bell rang from the peak of Lingnan and spread throughout the entire Lingnan region. All the pathmasters of the 12 Daoist sects were alarmed and gathered at the peak of Lingnan. Half a day later, the 12 pathmasters brought countless disciples and headed directly for the imperial city of the Eastern Martial Dynasty. The entire southern domain was shocked. Ji Fei, do you dare to fight? At dusk, the setting sun was like blood. A figure stepped on a sword light and appeared in the sky above the Eastern Martial Imperial City. A wave of divine will descended from the sky. Who dares to challenge the master by name? Demonic Wind and the Eastern Martial Imperial Lord jumped out. In the back garden of the Imperial Palace, under a big tree, a man and a woman were drinking tea at a stone table. There was a simple tea set, some snacks, and fruits on the table. Next to them was the 9th princess of the Eastern Martial Imperial family. The 9th princess was the Eastern Martial Imperial Lord's 9th daughter. She was born with blocked veins and could not cultivate, but she was naturally beautiful and had a peerless appearance. The 9th princess, Zhu Ziru, attracted Ji Fei's attention because her name was similar to Zhao Ziru's. Moreover, he could tell at a glance that it was not that the 9th princess could not cultivate, but that she had a heaven-defying physique. The 9th princess, Zhu Ziru, was born with a yin body. As long as an immortal-level existence helped her open up all the blocked meridians in her body, she could soar to the sky. The yin body and the 9th secluded meridian were incurable diseases in the Tai Yuan realm. Even divine state warriors were helpless against them. They could only live to about 20 years old before dying prematurely. Zhu Ziru was already 19 years old this year. She was weak and sickly, so she was the least favored in the entire Eastern Martial Imperial family. Even her father, the Eastern Martial Imperial Lord, did not like his daughter. At this time, Zhu Ziru's 9th secluded meridian had been cured by Ji Fei. Her chi was unblocked and the advantages of the yin body immediately showed. The 9th princess had cultivated to the 7th heaven of the mortal realm in just a few days. She was much more powerful than the heaven-defying geniuses in the Tai Yuan realm. Someone actually dared to challenge you. I'm very curious who this person is. Mo Xian, who was sitting opposite Ji Fei, smiled charmingly. Ji Fei, do you dare to come out and fight? A loud voice came from the sky and spread throughout the entire imperial city, shaking the entire city. Ji Fei smiled and instantly disappeared into the void. You're quite lucky to be able to have this person as your master. Mo Xian looked at the 9th princess who was standing beside her and said indifferently. Her eyes were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. At this time, in the Eastern Martial Imperial Palace, a figure soared into the sky. In an instant, he arrived high up in the sky at an extremely fast speed. Martial Immortal? When Lingnan Sword Master saw Ji Fei, he could not help but be shocked. He could not see through Ji Fei's cultivation at all. Challenging me won't do you any good. Ji Fei stood with his hands clasped behind his back and looked at Lingnan Sword Master quietly. Lingnan Sword Master was simply a heavenly sword in human form. It was as though he could transform into a peerless sword radiance and soar into the sky at any time. Let's fight. Lingnan Sword Master roared angrily. Then, he pointed at Ji Fei. Swoosh. An extremely sharp sword radiance broke through the void and slashed at Ji Fei. Ji Fei's figure instantly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already above Lingnan Sword Master and he stomped his foot down on Lingnan Sword Master. Rumble. The void under Jiu Fei's foot was shaking. One stomp could move the universe. Buzz. Lingnan Sword Master's body emitted a sword hum. Then, 9 resplendent sword radiants rushed out from his body and pierced towards Jiu Fei. Jiu Fei sneered. His body shook and the surrounding void immediately rippled like water. The 9 sword radiants directly shattered in the void. Heaven Transformation Palm. Jiu Fei directly displayed his unique skill. A big hand instantly covered the entire sky, shrouding Swordmaster Lingnan in the big hand. Cosmos-breaking sword. Lingnan Sword Master roared angrily. He clenched his right hand in the void and a divine sword appeared in his hand. Then, he slashed with the sword. Swoosh. The sword radiance easily cut through the void and collided with Jiu Fei's large hand. The sword radiance and the large hand dissipated at the same time. The two figures collided and an extremely intense close combat erupted. Chapter 40-22. Lingnan swordsman mainly cultivated the way of the sword and became a sword immortal. Most of his cultivation was on his sword. Without his sword, he would be in trouble. However, Jiu Fei was different. He was a peerless immortal soldier in human form. His every move could shake heaven and earth. If it was an ordinary martial immortal, he would have been killed by Jiu Fei with one punch. The battle between experts in the immortal realm was so loud that all the cultivators in the Dongwu dynasty could feel it. Even the martial artists in the East region could feel the power coming from above. Master, Demonic Wind was extremely excited. This was a battle between immortals and gods. The most powerful beings in the Taiyuan realm were immortals because it was impossible to cultivate to the immortal king realm in this world. Bam! Boom! Dull sounds of collision could be heard and a figure was forced to retreat. How dare you challenge my master? You must be tired of living, Demonic Wind said disdainfully. What a pity. Countless martial artists felt it was a pity. The aura of the immortal realm was too strong. Even God realm experts could not soar into the sky and could only watch the battle from the ground. If they could watch the battle from a close distance, some of the old antiques might have an epiphany and then break through to the immortal realm. Swoosh. At this moment, a sword light soared for 100 miles and created a huge crack in the space. What? Seeing that scene, the crowd were all indescribably astonished. That was the power of a martial immortal. That sword strike was simply capable of splitting the heavens. That sword strike was simply too strong. Boom. At this moment, Jiu Fei shattered the sword light and charged at Lingnan swordsman. He clenched his right hand and punched at Lingnan swordsman. The violent fist power instantly turned into a huge dragon and pounced at Lingnan swordsman. Roar. A shocking dragon roar seemed to resound in the void. Fist power turning into a dragon? The godly realm experts who were watching the battle on the ground were all moved. It wasn't a big deal for fist energy to take form, but Jiu Fei's fist energy had turned into a huge dragon that was thousands of feet long. Rumble. The huge dragon flew across the sky and the void shook. Humph. Lingnan's swordsman snorted and moved his hand that was holding his sword. Buzz. A sword cry resounded through the heavens, and a sword light that was 10 times more dazzling than the sword light from before rushed out of his hand, slicing the massive dragon in half with just a single strike. Jiu Fei's fist force was destroyed by Swordmaster Lingnan's sword. However, Jiu Fei soared into the sky and threw a punch at the incoming sword gleam. The fist and the sword light collided in an instant. The next moment, the sword light that slashed at Jiu Fei's fist shattered, turning into specks of immortal light and dissipating in the void. He actually blocked the Southern Ridge Sword Master's invincible sword gleam with his body. How is this possible? All of the people who witnessed this scene were stunned. One must know that the Lingnan Sword Master was not an ordinary martial immortal. Instead, he was a sword immortal. The attack power of a sword immortal was stronger than that of ordinary martial immortals. This was because a sword immortal's abilities were almost all on a single sword. Even the Southern Ridge Sword Master was astonished. This guy's physical body was actually this powerful? A martial body comparable to an immortal-level weapon? Not bad. You actually managed to become a martial immortal in the Extreme Origin realm. You are indeed not simple, Ji Yufei said as he attacked. His punches were like landslides. Tyrannical power erupted from his fists. Every time he punched, the entire void would tremble. What did you say? The Southern Ridge Sword Master's entire body was emitting immortal sword rays. Every single sword ray easily pierced through the void, capable of killing any cultivator below the immortal realm. If you were in a middle-grade world or a high-grade world, someone like you would definitely be able to become a stronger existence, said Ji Yufei. His fists kept colliding with the sword rays from the Southern Ridge Sword Master's body, producing the sound of metal clashing. What? The Southern Ridge Sword Master was astonished. What middle-grade world? What high-grade world? Could there be other worlds in this world? Clang. Ji Yufei's fists collided with the Southern Ridge Sword Master's divine sword again. This time, the Southern Ridge Sword Master's divine sword was knocked away. Sky overturning palm. When Ji Yufei struck with his palm, the entire world seemed to be collapsing. The entire world seemed to have turned upside down. Heaven and earth reversed and the stars moved. The Southern Ridge Sword Master was shocked. In the next moment, he became one with his sword and turned into an immortal sword ray. He soared into the sky, broke through the layers of sky overturning force and rushed out. Supreme Sword Dao, sky overturning sword. The Southern Ridge Sword Master turned into a sword. A terrifying sword ray descended from the sky and went for Ji Yufei. The terrifying sword aura spread out and countless black spatial cracks appeared in the surrounding void. Ji Yufei did not block it. He let the sword ray slash his body. At the same time, he punched the Southern Ridge Sword Master's chest. Crack. The sound of bones cracking was heard. The Southern Ridge Sword Master's chest caved in. He was sent flying hundreds of miles away by Ji Yufei's punch and kept coughing out blood. What shocked the Southern Ridge Sword Master was that Ji Yufei's clothes were not even cut after being hit by his sword. This is impossible. The Southern Ridge Sword Master muttered to himself. The sound of bones rubbing against each other came from his body. His chest, which had caved in from Ji Yufei's punch, was rapidly healing. Nothing is impossible. Ji Yufei hovered in the air with his hands behind his back. I'm not your match. The Southern Ridge Sword Master had to admit that Ji Yufei was stronger than him. Not just a little bit stronger. After saying that, the Southern Ridge Sword Master turned into a sword ray and soared into the sky. He disappeared into the void and left. Ji Yufei did not stop him and let the sword ray fly away. He had no grudge with the Southern Ridge Sword Master. The two of them were just sparring. There was no need to fight to the death. It was enough to determine the victor. The battle ended and the terrifying immortal aura disappeared into the void. Ji Yufei descended from the sky and rushed into the Eastern Martial Imperial City's palace. The Southern Ridge Sword Master was defeated. This is incredible. When the news spread, the entire world was shocked. It's time to leave. In the palace, Ji Yufei said calmly, Master, you are ascending? Everyone was shocked, especially Demonic Wind. If Ji Yufei left, he would not be able to suppress the experts in the Eastern Martial Dynasty with his own strength. This realm is just an inferior world. My achievements are limited. If I want to become stronger, I have to go to other worlds, Ji Yufei said indifferently. Other worlds. Chapter 4023. Ji Yufei defeated the Southern Ridge Sword Sovereign, shocking the entire world. After that, he began his preparations to break through the void. He wanted to ascend to the immortal martial realm. Low-grade worlds could no longer support his cultivation, unless he ascended to a higher-grade world. In truth, Ji Yufei had the myriad world wheel and could go anywhere he wanted. But given his current cultivation base, it was impossible for him to use it. And just when Ji Yufei was preparing to ascend, in the southern domain, at the peak of the southern ridge, a silhouette broke through the barrier of the world with a single sword strike. After that, under the gazes of the crowd, that silhouette stepped out and directly entered the world on the other side. The Southern Ridge Sword Immortal finally ascended to the immortal martial realm. Countless cultivators witnessed this scene. All of them were incomparably excited. The success of the Southern Ridge Sword Sovereign gave them hope. Ji Yufei wasn't in a hurry. Breaking through the void was an extremely easy matter to him. The ninth princess of the Eastern Martial royal clan, Ju Ziru, had always been by Ji Yufei's side, receiving the personal guidance of Ji Yufei. Her cultivation base was constantly rising. The Eastern Martial royal lord was both shocked and overjoyed. Who would have thought that little Nine, whom he had always viewed as trash, was actually so heaven-defying? She had only cultivated for a few days, yet she was already about to reach the peak of the mortal realm. The Eastern Martial royal lord even opened the treasury of his royal clan and took out countless spirit medicines to send to Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei directly refined these spirit medicines into pills for Ju Ziru, causing her cultivation base to directly break through to the Xiantian realm. The extreme yin martial body was simply too heaven-defying. Naturally, Ji Yufei wasn't bad either. He was a martial immortal. Wouldn't it be as easy as flipping his palm for him to help someone break through to the Xiantian realm? Master, are you really going to leave? In the rear garden of the royal palace, Ji Yufei was taking a stroll. Ju Ziru and Mo Xian followed behind him. Mo Xian didn't treat him as an outsider at all, treating this place as her home. Yeah, Ji Yufei, isn't this place good? Why do you want to leave? Mo Xian asked. This place is simply desolate compared to the true immortal realm. Cultivators of our generation pursue the ultimate strength. Here, there's no such strength. Ji Yufei said. Of course, if you wish to leave the supreme origin realm, I can bring you into the immortal martial realm, Ji Yufei continued. Is this the so-called when a man achieves the Tao, his fowls and dogs follow him to heaven? Mo Xian smiled. I will leave in 3 days. After saying that, Ji Yufei flicked his sleeve and disappeared into the void. This, Mo Xian and Ju Ziru felt helpless. Leaving the great origin realm? Mo Xian and Ju Ziru were struggling in their hearts. It wasn't an easy thing to leave the place they grew up in. They were extremely reluctant. After all, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to return once he left. Ji Yufei was just a passerby, so he left. But Mo Xian and Ju Ziru were different. Mo Xian and Ju Ziru also left. They needed to think about it and make a good plan. Should they leave or stay? They needed to make a decision. As for Demonic Wind and Imperial Lord East Wu, Ji Yufei did not plan to take them away. 3 days passed very quickly. The news that Ji Yufei was about to leave spread. All the famous cultivators in the Great Origin Realm came and gathered in the royal capital. At the peak of the royal capital, a figure sat cross-legged in the sky. At this moment, countless gazes landed on this figure. Countless cultivators in the royal capital stared nervously at the figure sitting on the peak of the royal capital. Today will be a day without immortals in the Great Origin Realm. An antique-level warrior sighed and said. It wasn't easy for 2 martial immortals to appear in the Great Origin Realm. But in less than a month, these 2 martial immortals would break through the void and enter the immortal god realm. This was a major event that attracted the attention of the entire world. Countless ancestors of the major sects, clan leaders of the top clans, and leaders of the Holy Lands all came. The commotion caused by Ji Yufei's ascension was much greater than the ascension of the Southern Ridge Swordmaster. One must know that he defeated the Southern Ridge Swordmaster, the strongest martial immortal in the Great Origin Realm. Master, the 9th princess of the Eastern Wu royal clan came. She was like a fairy from the 9 heavens. Her whole body exuded a kind of cold aura, as though she was not a creature of this world. The Eastern Wu royal lord frowned when he saw this. Ju Ziru was the most heaven-defying existence in the Eastern Wu royal clan. With her cultivation speed, in less than 100 years, she would become the strongest existence in the entire Great Origin Realm. Ju Ziru was the hope of the Eastern Wu royal clan to dominate the world. However, if Ju Ziru followed Ji Yufei into the immortal martial realm, the hope of the Eastern Wu royal clan to rise again would be shattered. However, the Eastern Wu royal lord was an ambitious and ruthless person. He knew that if Jua could continue to follow Ji Yufei, her future would be limitless and she could even become an unimaginably powerful existence. He followed Ji Yufei and also learned some great secrets of heaven and earth. In this world, there was not only the Great Origin Realm. If the Eastern Wu royal clan could produce a supreme existence that could dominate the myriad of heavens and earth, it would not be a bad thing. Zhu Ziru stood behind Ji Yufei. She glanced back at the imperial palace one last time. After today's departure, she didn't know when she would return. When it was almost noon, a silhouette appeared at the peak of the imperial palace. Isn't that the holy maiden of the devil sect? Even she wants to leave with Ji Yufei? Someone exclaimed in surprise. Once the holy maiden leaves, the devil sect will be in chaos. Hee. Someone couldn't wait for the internal strife within the devil sect to continue. It won't be chaotic. The holy maiden left with Ji Yufei. There's no reason not to leave a backup plan. Someone said something like that. In fact, with Ji Yufei's support, it was as easy as flipping a palm for Mo Xian to become the leader of the devil sect. However, ever since she followed Ji Yufei, Mo Xian no longer cared about the position of the devil lord. So what if it was the devil lord? As long as she was strong enough, the devil lord was also an ant. You want to leave with me too? Ji Yufei, who was sitting cross-legged in the air, suddenly opened his eyes and glanced at Mo Xian. I've played enough in the Great Origin realm. I want to go to the immortal martial realm to take a look. Mo Xian seriously replied. Since this is the case, let's go. Ji Yufei spoke as he stood up. With a wave of his sleeves, a ball of divine light enveloped Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru. After that, he pointed out with a finger. The resplendent finger light instantly tore a hole in the air. A vast aura surged over from the other side of the opening in the void. Rumble, the entire heaven and earth trembled, as though it was about to be crushed by this aura. Countless cultivators were shocked to the extreme. Those godly realm experts could faintly see another world appearing on the other side of the hole. Go. Chapter 40-24. This is the immortal martial realm. Ever since Ji Yufei recovered his memories, he knew that although he was forced into samsara by the first primogenitor, he was still in the primogenitor realm. Regardless of the supreme origin realm or the immortal devil tribulation, they were all passers-by to him. What he needed to do now was to cultivate anew, to find his own invincible strength. At this moment, Ji Yufei stood on the peak of a huge mountain. Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru stood beside him. What a dense amount of heaven and earth spiritual qi. Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru sensed the spiritual qi in the surroundings. Their faces were filled with shock. The density of the spiritual qi here was definitely 10 times that of the supreme origin realm. The spiritual qi concentration on a random mountain was comparable to that of a spiritual land with a spiritual vein in the Taiyuan realm. In front of them was a boundless mountain range with lush trees. Some of the trees were so tall that they pierced through the sky, reaching hundreds of meters in height. Ji Yufei didn't think much of it. Compared to the primogenitor realm, this was simply a remote and desolate place. But in the eyes of Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru, this was a heaven for cultivators. At this moment, in the air above the mountain range, a gigantic bird flew by. That bird had a wingspan of over 10 meters, casting a huge shadow in the air. Suddenly, the gigantic bird retracted its wings and shot down from the sky like an arrow. Roar! A bestial roar rang out from the mountain range. After that, they saw the gigantic bird grabbing onto a beast that looked like a pangolin as it soared up into the sky, disappearing into the distance. And near the mountain peak Ji Yufei was at, heavy footsteps could be heard. They could even feel the tremors beneath their feet. Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru hurriedly turned their gazes in the direction of the sound, only to see a gigantic black silhouette disappearing into the distance. That is, Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru were indescribably shocked. This was simply a world where savage beasts ran rampant. There's no need to be so nervous. That's just a gigantic ape. Ji Yufei calmly spoke. Gigantic ape. Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru exchanged glances, seeing the fear in each other's eyes. That was a behemoth comparable to a mountain. Don't make a fuss out of nothing. If you fellows were to encounter the primordial giant, wouldn't you be scared silly? Ji Yufei said nonchalantly. Compared to those ancient giants who could pluck the stars and catch the moon, this giant ape was just a small shrimp. There are primeval giants here? Mo Xian said in shock. There's none here. The immortal martial realm is merely a mid-tier world, there shouldn't be any high-leveled lifeforms here. Ji Fei looked around. In the next moment, a powerful spiritual will spread out from his body. It could only cover a radius of 10 kilometers. It was incomparable to the Tai Yuan realm, where one could cover 100,000 kilometers with a single thought. Ji Fei knew that this was because the laws of heaven and earth in the immortal martial realm were more complete and stronger compared to the Grand Origin realm. Even if it was him, it would be impossible for him to shatter the void here. Let's find a place to stay first. As Ji Fei spoke, he waved his sleeves and brought Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru into the sky, flying into the distance. Very quickly, they found a valley where the spiritual qi was concentrated. However, just as they descended from the sky, an earth-shattering roar of a tiger suddenly rang out. After that, a ferocious tiger the size of a small mountain leapt out from the thicket. A violent aura emanated from the ferocious tiger. What? A ferocious tiger has a cultivation base at the deity realm? Mo Xian was dumbfounded. This was just a ferocious tiger, but this ferocious tiger was actually comparable to the strongest cultivators in the Grand Origin realm. Deity realm, Zhu Ziru couldn't help but be shocked when she heard this. At this moment, the ferocious tiger stared at Ji Fei and roared in a low voice. It seemed like it would pounce towards Ji Fei at any moment and swallow Ji Fei whole. Little fellow, be obedient and stand guard outside. No one is allowed to enter. Ji Fei spoke to the ferocious tiger. He was using his spiritual will to communicate with the ferocious tiger. This kind of communication broke through the limits of language. Roar. The ferocious tiger roared and lowered its body. In the next moment, the ferocious tiger leapt up from the ground and pounced towards Ji Fei. Ji Fei waved his sleeve and the ferocious tiger immediately flew to the side. Boom. It smashed into the thicket. Roar. The ferocious tiger roared and walked out of the thicket. Then, it obediently walked towards the entrance of the valley and laid down on a large rock. This ferocious tiger had already gained intelligence. It wasn't something an ordinary ferocious tiger could compare to. Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru were shocked when they saw this. This ferocious tiger could easily eat them as food. However, in front of Ji Fei, it was even more obedient than a cat. These ferocious beasts in the mountain bullied the weak and feared the strong. When they met an existence that was stronger than them, they naturally had to be obedient. This valley was not bad. In the depths of the valley, there was a cave that could shelter them from the wind and rain. Moreover, this cave was very clean. It was obvious that this was the place where the ferocious tiger lived. After Ji Fei entered the cave, he jumped onto a large rock and sat down cross-legged. He breathed in the surrounding heaven and earth essence and started cultivating. Zhu Ziru and Mo Xian went out to gather a lot of firewood. They immediately started a fire in the cave. Mo Xian brought back a wild rabbit. After cleaning it, she placed the rabbit on top of the fire and roasted it. Very quickly, the cave was filled with the fragrance of meat. It didn't matter if Ji Fei ate or not. However, Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru weren't immortals. They still needed to eat. After eating the roasted meat, Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru also sat down cross-legged and started cultivating. The heaven and earth essence around them quickly gathered towards them. Rumble. The next morning, Mo Xian's body actually emitted the sound of wind and thunder. The demonic energy on her body was vast and mighty. Within the demonic energy, there were indistinct demonic dragons. Zhu Ziru was instantly startled. She stared at Mo Xian in shock. Who would have thought that her cultivation base would break through the moment she arrived in the immortal martial realm? A voice suddenly drifted over from the side. Master, Zhu Ziru turned her gaze in the direction of the voice. The person who spoke was none other than her master, Ji Fei. Given her talent, she might be able to defy the heavens in the supreme origin realm. But in the immortal martial realm, it's hard to say. Ji Fei stared at Mo Xian as he calmly spoke. Mo Xian was currently trying to break through to the saint realm. Once she succeeded, she would be one step closer to the immortal martial realm. About 4 hours later, a long roar rang out from the valley, soaring up into the clouds. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the entire valley was drawn over, frenziedly gathering towards the cave. Mosyan-Er's cultivation base had successfully broken through to the Saint realm. For the fastest novel reading, please visit Chapter 4025. Mosyan-Er's cultivation had successfully broken through to the Saint realm. She attracted the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Even the fierce tiger guarding the entrance of the valley was alarmed. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth crazily gathered towards Mosyan-Er's cave. This continued for a full hour. An hour later, Jiyu Fei, Mosyan-Er, and Zhu Ziru walked out of the cave. At the same time, the fierce tiger also ran over. "You guys ride this fierce tiger, let's get out of here," Jiyu Fei said. "Yes, master." Zhu Ziru nodded and leaped onto the tiger's back. "Haha, I can't believe there will be a day when I can ride a divine realm beast." Mosyan-Er smiled and jumped onto the tiger's back. In the Tai Yuan realm, divine realm ferocious beasts were the overlords of a region. Who dared to treat them as mounts? Only an immortal like Jiyu Fei could subdue this ferocious tiger and make it his mount. This ferocious tiger was as large as a small mountain. Even if more than a dozen people climbed on it, it would not feel crowded. Most importantly, this ferocious tiger's combat strength could not be underestimated. Jiyu Fei didn't get on the tiger's back because he could soar through the air. But in the immortal martial realm, Mosyan-Er, who was at the saint level, and Zhu Ziru, who was at the Xiantian realm, still had no way to soar through the air. In the immortal martial realm, only those at the heavenly divinity realm and above would be able to fly in the air. Jiyu Fei and the others set off. Mosyan-Er and Zhu Ziru rode the fierce tiger on the ground while Jiyu Fei flew in the sky and pointed the way for the fierce tiger. However, this mountain range was too big. Even with Jiyu Fei's cultivation, he couldn't see the end of it. However, heading towards the place where the sun rose was definitely the right choice. In any world, the place where the sun rose in the east was the place where the powerful clans resided. This was especially true for living beings who cultivated in the 5 elemental cultivation methods. Living in the east was definitely the first choice. Moreover, some races often used the sun as a totem. However, as Jiyu Fei and the others headed east, they didn't know how many miles they had traveled, but there were still dense forests and endless mountain ridges in front of them. This mountain range seemed to have no end. Along the way, they encountered many powerful beasts. Fortunately, most of these ferocious beasts were in the divine realm or sage realm. After these ferocious beasts sensed the aura of the tiger, they all retreated far away. They even encountered a ferocious beast of the immortal martial realm. However, this ferocious beast was beaten away by Jiyu Fei. Soon, it was dusk again. The blood-red sunset hung over the mountains in the west, giving off the last afterglow of the day. Jiyu Fei found a cave under a cliff. Zhu Ziru and Mosyan-Er stayed in the cave. The fierce tiger continued to guard the cave entrance while Jiyu Fei soared into the sky to scout ahead. Not long after Jiyu Fei left, a group of black-clothed men silently appeared at the foot of the cliff. Roar! Xiong Hu, who was dozing off at the entrance of the cave, immediately stood up and roared at the black-clothed men. A violent aura spread out from Xiong Hu's body. "Who are you people?" Mosyan-Er and Zhu Ziru heard the commotion and immediately rushed out of the cave. "Hey, our luck is not bad today. We actually met 2 beautiful girls." Among the black-clothed men, a pale-faced youth looked at Mosyan-Er and Zhu Ziru in surprise. "Who are you people?" Mosyan-Er coldly stared at the youth. "Me. Hehe, the person who will soon become your master." The black-clothed youth smiled evilly and looked at Mosyan-Er. His eyes were very evil and he even licked his lips. Damn guy. Mosyan-Er was the devil sect saintess of the supreme origin world. With one look, she could see that this guy was a complete hedonistic son of a rich family. "You are courting death." Zhu Ziru heard the black-clothed youth's words and became angry. "Audacious. You dare to be rude to my young master? Do you know who my young master is?" A fiendish man angrily said to Zhu Ziru and Mosyan-Er. "Oh, I am very curious. Who is your young master?" Mosian suddenly smiled charmingly and a soul-stirring charm emerged from her body. When the pale-faced black-clothed youth saw this, he couldn't control himself. It was as if his soul was about to be hooked away by Mosian. Listen carefully. My young master is the young city lord of East Peak City. His name is Liu Rufeng. The black-clothed man said proudly. East Peak City? Liu Rufeng? Never heard of it. Mosian said disdainfully. What did you say? When Liu Rufeng's subordinates heard this, they were all angry. Even Liu Rufeng himself showed a displeased expression. Little ones, get rid of this little cat and then invite these two ladies back to the mansion. I want to take good care of them. Liu Rufeng said as he retreated to the side. I will take good care of you now. Mosian-er's killing intent rose and a layer of demonic energy appeared on her body. Her eyes gradually turned blood red. Hey, you're actually one of the demons. I actually misjudged you. I have never entertained demons before. This time, I have to take good care of them. When Liu Rufeng saw that Mosian-er was actually a demon, his eyes lit up. Clang. At this moment, a white light flashed and a tiger's head flew up. Then, a blood-stained long saber was placed on Mosian-er's neck. What? Mosian-er's shock was no small matter. At this moment, she finally saw who the person who made the move was. This person was actually a skinny black-clothed old servant beside Liu Rufeng. God realm. Mosian-er and Zhu Ziru couldn't believe it. From the moment this unremarkable old man took out his saber, to killing the tiger, to pointing the saber at Mosian-er, everything was done in an instant. He was extremely skilled. Uncle Dao, be careful. Don't hurt them. Liu Rufeng said. Xian-er, Zhu Ziru couldn't help but be shocked. Mosian-er was a God realm martial artist. She didn't even make a move and the saber was placed on her neck. This old man's cultivation was definitely terrifying. Zhu Ziru was only a Xiantian realm martial artist. She wasn't a match for these people. Master, come back quickly. Zhu Ziru was anxious. If you dare to touch us, you won't be able to live either. Mosian-er stared at Liu Rufeng and said while gritting her teeth. Although the saber was placed on her neck, she was still calm without a trace of fear. You dare to threaten my young master? Liu Rufeng's subordinates were instantly enraged. Some of them even wanted to attack Mosian-er. Che, I am the young master of East Peak City. Who in this 10,000 miles radius of East Peak City dares to provoke me? Liu Rufeng said arrogantly. East Peak City was a big city. There were many experts in the city. Especially the young master, he was a powerful earth immortal. Really? Chapter 4026. East Peak City's young lord, right? Are you that awesome? Ji Fei walked out of the forest with his hands behind his back. Master, Ji Fei, save me. Zhu Ziru and Mosian-er were surprised and happy to see Ji Fei. Who is this guy? Kill him. Liu Rufeng didn't even look at Ji Fei and waved his hand impatiently. He didn't put Ji Fei in his eyes at all. Yes, young lord. A cyan-clothed servant beside Liu Rufeng stepped forward and pulled out a saber. With a flash of saber light, he slashed at Ji Fei's head. Ji Fei sneered and stretched out his right hand. The servant was dumbfounded. Ji Fei actually used his index and middle fingers to clamp the blade. What? The others were also shocked by this scene. How is this possible? This guy doesn't seem to have any cultivation. How can he catch a fast blade? Even Liu Rufeng was surprised. His servant was famous for his speed and his cultivation was at the peak of the god realm. Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? You want to play this trick with me? Liu Rufeng laughed. Roar. At this time, the servant's Yuan Qi surged, causing the surrounding sand and stones to fly. However, no matter how much Yuan Qi he used, it was useless. Ji Fei's fingers were stuck to the blade and couldn't move at all. I was worried about not being able to find a way out. Very good. Ji Fei said and exerted force with his right hand. The blade in the servant's hand broke into two and the servant was sent flying. Swoosh. Ji Fei waved his hand and a cold light flashed. The arm of the old servant holding the knife on Mosyan-Er's neck fell to the ground. What? Everyone was inexplicably shocked. Who are you? I am the East Peak City's young lord. Liu Rufeng's complexion immediately became gloomy. Saber Uncle was his servant. He had been by his side ever since he could remember. Liu Rufeng and Uncle Saber had a very deep relationship, so when Ji Yufei injured Uncle Saber, he was completely enraged. A powerful immortal aura erupted from his body, causing the people around him to stagger and stumble backwards. This guy is just a hedonistic young master. How is he so strong? Mosyan-Er was shocked. Half-step immortal god. Ji Yufei shook his head. He really didn't have any impulse to make a move against such a little guy. You dare look down on me? Liu Rufeng was furious when he saw the disdain on Ji Yufei's face. TSK, so what if I look down on you? Ji Yufei waved his hand impatiently. Go to hell. Liu Rufeng roared and punched at Ji Yufei. Roar. Yuan Qi surged, and a ferocious tiger shadow appeared in the void, pouncing at Ji Yufei. A violent force spread out, uprooting the surrounding trees. Fist force transformation? Ji Yufei didn't even put this martial Dao sacred art in his eyes. He directly slapped the ferocious tiger that was pouncing at him, causing it to collapse in the void. Pa! A resounding slap rang out as Ji Yufei slapped Liu Rufeng to the side and sent him crashing into the forest. Roar! In the next moment, a powerful wave of Yuan Qi erupted from the forest. The surrounding trees instantly collapsed, and everything within a radius of 30 meters was shattered by the burst of Yuan Qi. Liu Rufeng's hair was disheveled as he pounced at Ji Yufei like a madman. Rays of cold light rushed out from his body. Those were incomparably sharp light blades, and each light blade seemed to be able to cut the void. Child's play. Ji Yufei stretched out his hand and directly grabbed the dozen light blades. Then, with a roundhouse kick, he sent Liu Rufeng flying. Ji Yufei waved his right hand, and the dozen cold lights immediately shot out from his hand. In an instant, they pierced through the bodies of Liu Rufeng's servants. Blood splattered everywhere. Liu Rufeng's dozen or so attendants, along with Saber Uncle, all fell to the ground and lost their lives. Seeing this scene, Juziru and Mosyan-Er were shocked, especially Mosyan-Er. That Saber Uncle was able to subdue her in one move, and he had the cultivation of the God Realm. However, in front of Ji Yufei, these God Realm and Sage Realm martial artists were not even comparable to ants. They could be killed with a wave of his hand. At this time, Ji Yufei came in front of Liu Rufeng and looked down at the young lord of East Peak City. Now, can we talk properly? Ji Yufei smiled, and his white teeth seemed to shine in the dark night. Liu Rufeng was shocked and angry, and he almost fainted. All right, tell me about East Peak City, Ji Yufei said impatiently. At this time, Liu Rufeng was extremely miserable. He only came to the East Peak mountain range to hunt and have fun. He didn't expect to become someone's prisoner. Liu Rufeng remained silent. Don't test my patience. I don't mind crushing an ant to death, Ji Yufei said indifferently, without a trace of emotion on his face. Hearing this, Liu Rufeng immediately panicked. This guy was decisive, and it was very likely that he would really kill him. Thinking of this, Liu Rufeng quickly told Ji Yufei everything he wanted to know. He answered every question, not daring to hide anything. I am a person who distinguishes kindness and grudges clearly. You can scram now, Ji Yufei said impatiently with a wave of his hand. Liu Rufeng hurriedly dove into the forest, fleeing in a panic. Why didn't you kill him? Aren't you afraid that he will return to East Peak City and ask his Earth Immortal father to kill you? Mosyan-Er disapproved of Ji Yufei's actions. The City Lord of East Peak City was a powerful Earth Immortal. From Liu Rufeng's words, Ji Yufei and the rest had a simple understanding of the Immortal Martial Realm. The cultivation realms of the Immortal Martial Realm could be divided into the Human Immortal, Earth Immortal, Heavenly Immortal, and Golden Immortal. And above the four realms, there was the Immortal King, Immortal Emperor, and Emperor's Yarn. Above Emperor's Yarn was the Flying Immortal Realm, the White Sun Flying Immortal, the Shattering Void. When one's cultivation reached the flying immortal realm, it was time to leave this world. The place Jiu Fei and the rest were at was called the East Peak Mountain Range. This mountain range had a radius of millions of miles, and even immortals and gods would get lost in it. The laws of heaven and earth in the immortal martial realm were very strong. Even immortals and gods would be suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth. It was very rare for a scene of destruction to appear in the immortal martial realm. East Peak City was located in the east of the East Peak Mountain Range. The distance from where Jiu Fei and the rest were was less than 10,000 miles. Let's stay here for the night and head to East Peak City tomorrow morning. Jiu Fei pondered for a moment before replying. But, these corpses. Mo Xian glanced at the corpses on the ground, and couldn't help but frown. Jiu Fei stomped the ground with his right foot. Peng! The ground trembled, and in the next instant, the corpses on the ground flew up. Following that, Jiu Fei waved his sleeves, and a raging wind suddenly appeared, sweeping the corpses away. Chapter 4027. The East Peak City was indeed the largest city in the Eastern Peak region. The pitch-black city walls were over 100 feet tall. Even the strongest savage beasts in the Eastern Peak mountain range wouldn't be able to break through the city walls. Here, there weren't only humans. There were also other races, such as the winged race with wings on their backs, the heavenly tiger race with tiger heads and human bodies, and the barbarian bull race with ox heads and human bodies. There was also the fox race that was said to be able to bewitch all living things under the heavens. In the immortal martial realm, 100 races contended for supremacy. In some regions, humans weren't the rulers, but generally speaking, they were the rulers of the immortal martial realm. The Eastern Peak mountain range was extremely vast, but the East Peak City's sphere of influence was only limited to a radius of 10,000 miles. The ruler of this ancient city was the Liu clan of the human race. Early in the morning, the gates of the East Peak City slowly opened. At this moment, 3 silhouettes walked over from afar. They were none other than Jiu Fei, Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru. What a huge city! When Mo Xian and Zhu Ziru arrived at the gates of the East Peak City, their countenances couldn't help but change. Even the capital of the Eastern Martial Dynasty in the Supreme Origin realm wasn't even 1/10 the size of this city. Such a huge city naturally had countless living beings living in it. Jiu Fei naturally didn't say anything. He had seen many cities bigger than this. In the primogenitor realm, any random city was much bigger than this. Let's enter. Jiu Fei flicked his sleeves as he led the way. Stop right there. Yes, I'm talking to you. Just as Jiu Fei was about to enter the city, a middle-aged man clad in battle armor jumped out and blocked his path. Jiu Fei stared at the man who blocked his path with a puzzled expression. The middle-aged man directly stretched his hand out in front of Jiu Fei. What's going on? Jiu Fei stared at the middle-aged man in bewilderment. Are you from outside the city? The entrance fee is 1 spirit stone. The middle-aged man glanced at Jiu Fei from head to toe as he spoke impatiently. Entrance fee? Jiu Fei couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this. Just then, a green light shot over from afar and landed outside the city gates. When the green light dissipated, a young man in green robes appeared before everyone's eyes. The young man directly walked past Jiu Fei and into the city. The soldiers didn't dare to stop him at all. Then how did he get in? He didn't pay the spirit stones. Jiu Fei said. Ha ha. You actually dare to compare yourself to a disciple of the Eastern Mountain Sword sect. What a joke. When the middle-aged soldier heard this, he laughed loudly. The other soldiers guarding the gate also laughed loudly. Little brother, the Eastern Mountain Sword sect is the strongest sect in the Eastern Mountain Territory. Their disciples don't have to pay any fees to enter and exit Eastern Mountain City. An old man beside Jiu Fei whispered to Jiu Fei. I see. Jiu Fei understood. What are you dilly-dallying for? Give me the entrance fee, the middle-aged soldier said impatiently. It's for 3 people. Jiu Fei took out 3 spirit stones from his sleeves and gave them to the soldier. The soldier took the spirit stones and saw that each of them was the size of a fist and had a crystal clear luster. It was obvious that they were of high quality. The middle-aged soldier's eyes turned red when he saw the 3 spirit stones. Top-grade spirit stones? The middle-aged soldier's hand trembled as he held the spirit stones. Can we go in now? Ji Fei said impatiently. Yes, please come in. The middle-aged soldier hurriedly replied. As he spoke, he skillfully placed the 3 spirit stones into his bag. He felt very pleased with himself. 3 top-grade spirit stones were enough for him to break through to the god realm. Ji Fei ignored the middle-aged soldier and brought Zhu Ziru and Mo Xian into the city. The streets were crowded with people and carriages. It was very lively. Both sides of the street were filled with shops. Whether it was spiritual herbs, weapons, or even cultivation techniques, they had everything. Where are we going now? Mo Xian asked. Where do you want to go? Ji Fei asked. Mo Xian didn't say anything. Just as they were walking on the street, the crowd in front of them suddenly cried out in alarm. There was a commotion, and then they saw a person riding a horse directly charging over. It wasn't an ordinary horse but a unicorn. It had a pair of wings on its back and could soar in the sky. Get lost, get lost. The person riding on the unicorn did not slow down at all. Instead, he charged straight at Ji Fei and the others. Just as the unicorn was about to collide with them, Ji Fei suddenly stretched out his right hand and pressed on the unicorn's bag. The unicorn was immediately stopped and couldn't move forward. In the next moment, the man on the unicorn pounced forward. He somersaulted in the air and stood firmly on the ground. How dare you? Do you know what you are doing? That person was a black-clothed youth. This black-clothed youth had an overbearing aura as he pointed at Ji Fei and scolded. Noisy. With a wave of his left hand, Ji Fei sent the conceited fellow flying with a pa sound. What? He dared to hit the second son of the city lord? The surrounding people were all stunned when they saw this. The city lord of East Peak City was an earth immortal. Ji Fei had hit the second son of the city lord, Liu Yingtian. This was unbelievable. You dare hit me? Liu Yingtian touched his swollen face and stared at Ji Fei fiercely. So what if I hit you? Ji Fei said disapprovingly. Damn it, just you wait. Liu Yingtian turned and ran towards the city lord's mansion. What a beautiful unicorn! Zhu Ziru and Mo Xian's eyes lit up when they saw the unicorn. It's yours. Ji Fei said to Zhu Ziru. Thank you, master. Zhu Ziru said happily. Ji Fei, when will you get me a cool mount? Mo Xian looked at the unicorn enviously. Just wait. Your mount will be here soon. Ji Fei looked in the direction of the city lord's mansion and said indifferently. Young man, hurry up and run. An old martial artist reminded Ji Fei. What? Ji Fei was confused. Do you know who you just hit? The old man said. Who? Zhu Ziru asked curiously. That's the devil incarnate of East Peak City. The old man was afraid. Without saying anything more, he turned and left. TSK, devil incarnate? He's just a coward, that's all. Mo Xian said disdainfully. At this time, there were fewer people on the street. Many people hid in their houses and the street suddenly became deserted. Seems like that guy has done a lot of bad things. Zhu Ziru glanced around and said. So many people were afraid of that guy just now. He must be used to acting like a tyrant here. Just then, a thunderous sound came from the other side of the street, shaking the ground. Chapter 4028. Ji Fei actually dared to beat up the second son of the city lord of East Peak City. This caused everyone in the surroundings to be indescribably shocked. This fellow was awesome, he actually dared to beat up that devil incarnate. Very quickly, the people on the streets all left. Some were packing up their stalls, some were closing their shops, and some were closing their shops. All of them hid in their houses and peeked out from their windows. These fellows sure ran fast. Zhu Ziru couldn't help but furrow her brows when she saw this scene. These people must have been bullied by that devil incarnate. They must be scared of him. Mo Xian indifferently commented. From this, one could see that Liu Yingtian was truly a good person in East Peak City. At this moment, a dull sound of impact rang out from the other end of the street. Ji Yufei could even feel the tremors coming from the ground. Then, they saw a group of soldiers dressed in bronze armor and riding on beasts charging towards them. The person in the lead was a middle-aged general. A powerful immortal aura gushed forth from him. Immortal general? Ji Yufei rubbed his chin, feeling somewhat interesting. This immortal martial realm didn't seem to be as weak as he had imagined. Immortal divinity? Upon seeing this general, Mo Xian'er's countenance drastically changed. Her cultivation base had already broken through to the saint realm. The pressure emanating from this general was almost unbearable. And Zhu Ziru was only at the Xiantian realm. In front of an immortal, if it wasn't for Ji Yufei's protection, just a strand of his aura would be enough to shatter her soul. Naturally, the pressure of an immortal could be controlled by the user. Only those targeted by them would be able to feel it. If the pressure of an immortal couldn't be controlled by the user, wouldn't that mean that many people would die? One must know that even godly realm cultivators wouldn't be able to withstand the pressure of an immortal, let alone ordinary cultivators. At this moment, the middle-aged general had already brought a group of soldiers and stopped in front of Ji Yufei. Beside the middle-aged general, the silk pants Liu Yingtian followed. Uncle Zhong, he was the one who beat me up. Liu Yingtian gritted his teeth and pointed at Ji Yufei. The middle-aged general, Zhong Zhenyue, was an early-stage immortal god. He was one of the valiant generals under the East Peak City's Castellan, and he cultivated the Tao of killing. He had once sliced through the ancestral mountain of the demons with a single slash, driving the demons out of the East Peak mountain range. This was a slaughter immortal who achieved Tao through killing. A hint of impatience flashed across Zhong Zhenyue's face. If this guy was not the second son of the city governor, he would not bother to stand up for this ignorant and incompetent guy. Did you hit him? Zhong Zhenyue looked indifferently at Ji Yufei and said. So what if I hit him? Ji Yufei stood with his hands behind his back and said with a faint smile. If you hit him with that hand, then just chop off that hand and let this matter rest. Zhong Zhenyue said. Humph. You want to protect this guy? When Mo Xian'er heard this, she was instantly unhappy. Presumptuous. It's not the place for a puny saint realm warrior to speak. A young general next to Zhong Zhenyue stared at Mo Xian'er and shouted. Do you think you have the right to speak? Ji Yufei's expression turned even colder as he looked at the young general. This guy was arrogant, but he was only at the immortal realm. He was not even a half-step immortal. His cultivation was only one realm higher than Mo Xian'er's. Humph. Chop off one of your arms and get lost. Zhong Zhenyue was getting impatient. In his eyes, Ji Yufei was too young to be an immortal. However, since he was able to defeat Liu Yingtian, he might be at the immortal realm. In Zhong Zhenyue's eyes, a immortal realm warrior was just an ant. You're asking me to get lost? Ji Yufei looked at Zhong Zhenyue with a faint smile. Uncle Zhong, why are you wasting time talking to this guy? Just kill him. Liu Yingtian stared at Ji Yufei and said with a hideous smile. Soon, his eyes fell on Mo Xian'er and Zhu Ziru. This guy was lustful and had his eyes on Mo Xian'er and Zhu Ziru. He was waiting for Zhong Zhenyue to kill Ji Yufei so that he could take the sisters back to his residence and do whatever he wanted. Liu Yingtian was getting impatient. Sigh, I didn't want to kill you, but it seems like you're the one who asked for it. Ji Yufei suddenly shook his head and sighed. Ha ha. What did you say? You want to kill me? Do you know who my father is? My father is the governor of East Peak City, Liu Wudi. Liu Yingtian said with a maniacal smile. Die. Ji Yufei was too lazy to talk to this guy. He focused his eyes and an invisible divine will turned into an invisible god-slaying force and slashed at Liu Yingtian. How dare you? Zhong Zhenyue's expression changed. He stretched out his hand, intending to block Ji Yufei's attack. However, the god-slaying power formed by his divine consciousness bypassed his palm and struck the good-for-nothing Liu Yingtian in an instant. Liu Yingtian's laughter stopped abruptly. Then, a look of disbelief, despair, and unwillingness appeared on his face. Then, Liu Yingtian fell from the back of the battle beast in front of everyone's shocked eyes. Zhong Zhenyue was shocked and angry. This guy dared to kill someone in front of him, and the person he killed was the son of the governor of East Peak City, Liu Wudi. The people on both sides of the street who were hiding in their houses were also dumbfounded. This young man in black was really powerful. He really dared to kill the devil incarnate of East Peak City. Ji Yufei was going to fight to the death with the East Peak City's Castellan. Die. Zhong Zhenyue did not waste any time. He directly punched at Ji Yufei. Rumble. Zhong Zhenyue's punch directly shook the void. However, what happened next made even Zhong Zhenyue dumbfounded. He saw Ji Yufei's right index finger stop Zhong Zhenyue's fist. How is this possible? Everyone was stunned. They could not believe it. As soon as Ji Yufei's finger shook, Zhong Zhenyue immediately felt an irresistible force erupting from his finger. He was immediately sent flying backward and smashed into the crowd of battle soldiers behind him. The wild beasts roared, screamed, and screamed on the street. It was a complete mess. The finger-flicking immortal god. It was unimaginable. Roar. With a roar, Zhong Zhenyue soared into the sky. The next moment, a huge hand came down from the sky and directly slapped at Ji Yufei and the others. Humph. Ji Yufei sneered. He pushed his feet against the ground and directly jumped up. He directly crashed through the huge hand coming down from the sky and came in front of Zhong Zhenyue. Zhong Zhenyue was extremely shocked. This guy actually dared to play the pig to eat the tiger in front of him. This was too despicable. You what? Didn't you want to kill me? I'll stand here and let you kill me. Ji Yufei stood with his hands clasped behind his back, indifferently looking at Zhong Zhenyue. Who the hell are you? Zhong Zhenyue was both shocked and angered. How could such a young immortal god be possible? He had cultivated for over 1,000 years before becoming an immortal god. Could it be that this guy was the successor of a supreme sect from the Central Immortal Realm? The Central Immortal Realm was the core region of the Immortal Martial Realm. It was the true divine land. It was controlled by the supreme sects and ordinary immortals couldn't enter it. You are not qualified to know who I am. Ji Yufei said with a smile. What did you say? Zhong Zhenyue was even more furious. However, he didn't dare to act recklessly. His opponent's cultivation was probably higher than his. It would be very dangerous for him to act rashly. Since you don't want to fight, get lost. Ji Yufei said impatiently, waving his hand. A warrior prefers death to humiliation. Zhong Zhenyue was completely enraged. He was a combat immortal who had walked out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Even when facing the powerful figures of the demons, he had never retreated. He made a grabbing motion in the air with his right hand, and a battle spear immediately appeared in his hand. Die. Zhong Zhenyue shook the spear in his hand. In the next moment, the spear turned into a shadow and pierced toward Ji Yufei, directly breaking the void. The immortal god force was so vast that it seemed as if the entire heaven and earth were about to explode from the immortal force. All the creatures in East Peak City were terrified. What is Zhong Zhenyue doing? Almost at the moment when Zhong Zhenyue made his move, 5 tyrannical divine senses suddenly rushed out from several places in East Peak City. These people were all immortal gods. Ji Yufei didn't expect there to be so many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in East Peak City. This surprised Ji Yufei. At this moment, Ji Yufei stretched out his right hand and used his index and middle fingers to clamp the tip of the spear. Zhong Zhenyue was completely dumbfounded. This guy actually used 2 fingers to clamp my spear? Is this guy an earth immortal? Or is he a celestial immortal who is stronger than an earth immortal? Such a young immortal Dao powerhouse was simply too frightening. Crack. Ji Yufei exerted force with his right index and middle fingers. Then, the tip of the spear broke. Then, Ji Yufei reached out and flicked the tip of the spear. The entire spear exploded, and Zhong Zhenyue was directly sent flying. What, on the ground, the soldiers that Zhong Zhenyue brought with him were already stunned by the scene in front of them. This was too unbelievable. The invincible celestial general in their eyes had been completely defeated. Why didn't you kill me? Zhong Zhenyue flew back. His hands were covered in blood. He had been injured by the explosion. His immortal god blood kept dripping from his hands. I don't need a reason to kill you. Ji Fei said calmly. This, Zhong Zhenyue realized that this guy didn't take him seriously at all. Sigh. Zhong Zhenyue let out a long sigh. It was as if he had suddenly aged hundreds or thousands of years. He turned around and left East Peak City instead of returning to the City Lord's mansion. Great General, the soldiers that Zhong Zhenyue brought with him were shocked. Did their celestial general just leave like that? Zhong Zhenyue was defeated. Who is this guy? The immortal celestial realm experts in the city were shocked. Although Zhong Zhenyue was not the most powerful immortal in East Peak City, his combat strength was not weak either. The black-robed young man must be incredible to be able to defeat him. Chapter 40-29. Ji Fei killed Liu Yingtian and defeated Zhong Zhenyue. Countless cultivators in East Peak City were shocked to the extreme. The entire city was in an uproar as the news circulated. Where did this expert come from? He actually dared to kill the second son of the City Lord in East Peak City. Does he want to fight to the death with the City Lord? As the saying goes, ferocious dragons don't cross the river. There's going to be a good show to watch this time. All the cultivators in the city were discussing this matter. On the contrary, the City Lord Manor was very quiet. They didn't send any more people to cause trouble for Ji Fei. Ji Fei didn't care so much. He directly chose to stay in the best place in East Peak City, the East Manor Immortal Lodge. It was an immortal lodge formed by a large number of independent courtyards. To stay in one of the courtyards here, one would need to pay a high-grade immortal crystal a day. To ordinary cultivators, this was absolutely impossible to bear. This place only hosted the successors and disciples of the major clans and sects. East Peak City was located at the entrance of the Eastern Peak Mountain Range. Those who wished to enter the Eastern Peak Mountain Range would have to pass through this ancient city. In the entire eastern region of the immortal martial realm, there were many major sects and clans. The successors and disciples of the major sects all treated the Eastern Peak Mountain Range as a training ground and a hunting ground. Every year, there would be many people entering the Eastern Peak Mountain Range. Regardless of whether it was for hunting or training, East Peak City was always packed with people. At this time, the disciples of the major sects and clans were undergoing their training. There was a continuous stream of people rushing to East Peak City. Occasionally, bright streaks of light could be seen flying over from afar, landing in East Peak City. There were also experts riding on mounts, directly entering the city through the city gates. There were also several godchildren from the major sects who were escorted by countless people, incomparably imposing as they descended upon East Peak City. Master, what immortal beasts are those? Their entire bodies are covered in flames, it's too magical. Ju Ziru curiously asked as she stared at the 9 primordial beasts shrouded in divine flames. These 9 primordial beasts were pulling an incomparably extravagant carriage. Within the carriage, a lady dressed in pink could be seen. The carriage pulled by the 9 wild beasts landed directly on the square in front of the City Lord's mansion. Then, a group of people came to greet them. They were the higher-ups of the Liu family. Those are Firethorn Savage, not immortal beasts. In the courtyard, Ji Fei glanced at the direction where the 9 Firethorn Savage landed and said, I also thought they were immortal beasts. The aura from those savage beasts is much stronger than that of a God Realm martial artist. Mo Xian said in surprise. Someone actually used such a powerful beast to pull the carriage. This kind of method was simply unimaginable in the Tai Yuan realm. Immortal beasts can compete with immortals. How could they be subdued so easily? Ji Fei said indifferently. Immortal beasts possessed incomparably powerful fleshly bodies, and possessed innate advantages that humans didn't have. To a certain extent, immortal beasts were much stronger than immortals of the same level. Only the sect masters of the great sects and clans could tame immortal beasts and use them as mounts. For ordinary immortals, it was already very good if they could tame a God Realm spirit beast. Master, look, it's a divine dragon. At this moment, Ju Ziru cried out in surprise again. Ji Fei followed her gaze and saw a dragon-shaped creature rushing towards East Peak City from afar. The creature was hundreds of feet long, and it was brandishing its claws and fangs like a real dragon. On the huge head of the dragon-shaped creature stood a black-clothed young man with his hands clasped behind his back. Riding on a divine dragon, who is this guy? The black-clothed young man didn't emit any powerful aura, he seemed like an ordinary person. However, an ordinary person would never be able to ride on a divine dragon. That's not a divine dragon, it's not even a dragon. It's just an old flood dragon of the immortal realm. Jiu Fei only took a glance at the dragon-shaped creature, and he was able to see through its true form. Flood dragon? That's still a dragon, Juziru said. You can't confuse a flood dragon with a dragon. A dragon can fly to the 9 heavens, while a flood dragon can only cultivate in the great rivers. Compared to a dragon, one is in the sky, while the other is on the ground. There's no comparison at all. Jiu Fei explained. I see. Juziru stuck out her tongue after hearing that. A flood dragon that can ride on the immortal realm, doesn't that mean that person has at least the cultivation of an earth immortal? Mo Xian looked at the man and the flood dragon flying across the sky in shock. Jiu Fei didn't say anything. The black-clothed young man riding on the flood dragon was a true earth immortal. Why did so many experts suddenly come to East Peak City? Jiu Fei and the others didn't know what was going on. At that moment, a roar came from the courtyard behind the city lord's mansion. How dare they kill my son? If I don't kill them, my surname isn't Liu. A white-clothed middle-aged man said through clenched teeth. Father, we need to think about this carefully, a young man said through clenched teeth. This young man was Liu Rufeng, who had just returned from East Peak Mountain Range. He had just returned when he heard that his younger brother was dead. The murderer was a young man named Jiu Fei. Jiu Fei's strength had far exceeded Liu Rufeng's expectations. He didn't expect that Jiu Fei would dare to act so presumptuously in East Peak City and even defeat Zhong Zhenyue. Zhong Zhenyue was a killing immortal. Take my visiting card and go to the Black Demon Mountain. The East Peak City Lord said coldly. With a flip of his right hand, a visiting card appeared in his hand and he handed it to Liu Rufeng. Father, are you going to ask the Black Demon sect to take action? Liu Rufeng's expression changed. If the Black Demon sect's patriarch is willing to take action personally, this Jiu Fei guy will definitely die. The East Peak City Lord said with an ominous glint in his eyes. Yes, Father. I'll go now. Liu Rufeng quickly stood up and walked out. Jiu Fei didn't know that danger was approaching. Of course, even if he knew, he wouldn't be afraid of human immortals and earth immortals. Even if a celestial immortal came, Jiu Fei was confident that he could put up a fight. At this time, dusk was approaching. An attendant of the East residence came and handed an invitation to Jiu Fei. It was an invitation to an auction. One invitation could bring 2 people to the auction. Jiu Fei didn't want to participate in the auction, but Juziru and Mo Xian kept pestering Jiu Fei. They wanted Jiu Fei to bring them to experience it. Therefore, Jiu Fei could only agree to bring them. The auction was held in the East Residence's auction house. Every year, the East Residence would hold 1 or 2 auctions so that immortals from all over the world could have a chance to interact. The auction house had nearly 1,000 seats and there were also VIP rooms. The identities of the people in the VIP rooms were absolutely confidential. No one dared to leak it. Jiu Fei and the others didn't have a VIP room, so they could only sit in the ordinary seats. When the auction was about to start, the auction house was almost full. Even the dozens of VIP rooms were all reserved by the VIPs. The auction began. Under the staff's introduction, a short sword was brought on stage and displayed for everyone to see. A short sword is being auctioned. Juziru and Mo Xian were very disdainful. 2 big sisters, that's not an ordinary sword. It's said that it was once a divine weapon refined by a celestial immortal. Although it's broken, it's still a rare immortal treasure. Chapter 40-30. At the auction held by the East Mansion, the first item to be auctioned was actually a short sword, and it was a short sword that was broken into 2 pieces. This surprised Juziru and Mo Xian. A rich young man beside them told them about the origin of the broken sword. It turned out that this sword was forged by a sky immortal. No one knew why it was broken. The person who obtained the sword thought it was an ordinary immortal weapon, so he put it up for auction. However, this young man had obtained inside information. A broken immortal sword, suspected to be the sword of an earth immortal. The starting price is 1,000 high-grade immortal crystals. Every bid will increase the price by 100 high-grade immortal crystals. The host's voice spread throughout the entire auction hall. 1,100. Someone called out the price. 1,200, 1,300. The price of the broken sword kept rising. 2,000. Someone shouted. With that, everyone hesitated. It was just a broken sword. 2,000 high-grade immortal crystals was more than enough to purchase a complete immortal weapon. Is there a higher bid? The host glanced at the crowd. If no one else bids, this broken sword will belong to that immortal friend, the host continued. 2,100. At this moment, the rich young man beside Juziru and Mosiana raised the fan in his hand and said proudly, "Which prodigal son is using 2,000 high-grade immortal crystals to sell a broken sword?" Many people looked at him. It seems to be He Fei from the He clan. Someone recognized the rich young man. No one else called out the price. The rich young man successfully got the broken sword. An immortal weapon forged by a sky immortal, even if it was broken, would still have immortal runes left on it. Those immortal runes alone were worth more than 2,100 high-grade immortal crystals. Soon, someone from the auction hall sent the broken sword to He Fei. "This is a sky immortal sword." Juziru looked at the broken sword curiously. There was still a trace of immortal aura left on the broken sword. The immortal patterns inside had almost all dissipated, but they had not completely dissipated. If immortal true essence was poured into the broken sword, this broken sword could still unleash an immortal ranked attack. Even Mosiana couldn't help but look at the broken sword. "Do you want to see? Why don't we find a place to talk after the auction?" He Fei said as he carefully put away the broken sword. "This," Juziru glanced at Jiu Fei. "It's just a broken heavenly immortal sword. Only some fools would treat trash like a treasure," Jiu Fei said coolly. "Fellow Daoist, what are you talking about? How rare are sky immortal swords? There aren't many of them in the entire East Peak domain, and most of them are incomplete. They aren't perfect sky immortal swords." When He Fei heard Jiu Fei's words, he was immediately unhappy. "Is that so?" With a flip of Jiu Fei's right hand, a sword immediately appeared in his hand. A powerful and sharp immortal sword chi immediately radiated from the sword. "This is..." He Fei's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. "I don't have a heaven immortal sword, but I do have a golden immortal sword. Take it and play with it." Jiu Fei handed the immortal sword to Juziru. "A golden immortal sword? This is a perfect golden immortal sword. How is this possible?" The hedonistic young master of the He clan was scared silly. The moment the golden immortal sword appeared, the entire place was shaken. Everyone's eyes fell on the immortal sword in Jiu Fei's hand. The sword was not unsheathed, but everyone could feel the terrifying sword energy wave spreading out from the scabbard. It could shake the souls of immortals and gods even before it was unsheathed. What would happen if it was unsheathed? "Thank you, Master." Juziru happily put away the golden immortal sword. This, here's your master." He Fei was stunned again. He actually has a golden immortal sword. Where did this guy come from? Liu Rufeng, who was sitting in a VIP room, was sweating profusely. After delivering his father's invitation to the Black Demon sect, he immediately rushed back to East Peak City to participate in the auction. He was the son of the City Lord Mansion, so it was easy for him to get a VIP invitation to the auction. At this time, he was a little restless. Could this Jiu Fei be the descendant of one of the super sects in the Central Immortal Domain? Or is he a disciple of an immortal family in the Central Immortal Domain? Liu Rufeng felt very uneasy. If he provoked such an existence, let alone the Black Demon sect, even the Liu clan of East Peak would be in danger of extinction. "No, I want father to stop all actions and wait and see." Liu Rufeng directly left the auction house and rushed to the City Lord Mansion. The auction was interrupted by the little episode of Jiu Fei, and then continued. All the following auction items could not enter Gu Fei's eyes. When the last item was brought up, his eyes immediately lit up. It was a huge ball with a diameter of 20 feet. It needed 20 divine realm martial artists to carry it. "What is this?" someone asked directly. "We don't know what it is either. We only know that this ball is extremely hard. Even an immortal weapon refined by an earth immortal cannot damage it. There seems to be a powerful spiritual energy inside the ball." The host explained. "Could it be extraterrestrial divine iron?" someone said. Extraterrestrial divine iron was a material used to forge immortal weapons. If this ball was extraterrestrial divine iron, it would be a rare treasure. The starting price is 10,000 high-grade immortal crystals. Each bid will increase by 1,000 immortal crystals. The host said 20,000. Someone directly doubled the price, 30,000. An old man in embroidered robes with a ruddy face directly added 10,000. 40,000, Fatty Pang, don't compete with me this time. An old Taoist with a sage-like appearance said to the old man in embroidered robes. Ching Feng, I'm going to compete with you. So what? 50,000. The old man in embroidered robes shouted again. At this time, the surrounding people were dumbfounded. These two guys are increasing the price by 10,000. It seems that the high-grade immortal crystals are falling from the sky. That's high-grade immortal crystals. A middle-grade immortal crystal mine can only dig out 10,000 catties of high-grade immortal crystals in a year. Soon, these two guys shouted a sky-high price of 100,000 immortal crystals. 110,000. The people in the VIP room began to bid. When the people in the VIP room began to bid, neither Fatty Pang nor Ching Feng dared to bid. One should know that those who could enter the VIP room were all big shots with powerful backgrounds. Not everyone dared to provoke these people. For a moment, the whole place was silent. Just when everyone thought that no one would bid, Gu Fei suddenly raised his hand and said, 200,000. What? Chapter 4031. The auction hall of the East Manor Immortal Residence was completely silent. Everyone was staring at Gu Fei and they were all dumbfounded. Where did this prodigal son come from? He actually wanted to use 200,000 catties of high-grade immortal crystals to buy a ball of unknown origin. This ball was very mysterious. Even the appraisers of the East Mansion Immortal Residence couldn't tell what it was. The ball was very big and very hard. Someone once used an immortal artifact to attack it but couldn't even break a piece of its skin. Was it immortal iron? Didn't seem like it. It looked like an extraterrestrial divine iron, but that was all. Extraterrestrial divine iron was extremely rare. Even the old appraisers couldn't tell. However, one thing was certain. This was a spiritual item with spirituality, and it contained spiritual energy. But using 200,000 kilograms of high-grade immortal crystals to buy a spiritual item was definitely the behavior of an idiot. Even if one was rich, one shouldn't squander like this. This guy's brain must have been struck by lightning, 200,000 kilograms of high-grade immortal crystals. If it's for me, it's enough for me to cultivate to the Earth Immortal Realm. This is probably because he has too many immortal crystals. Many people were mocking him. In their eyes, Gu Fei was an idiot and a prodigal. However, some people were deep in thought. One must know that 200,000 kilograms of high-grade immortal crystals wasn't something ordinary people could take out. Even a large immortal crystal mine wouldn't be able to dig out 200,000 kilograms of high-grade immortal crystals in 10 years. Once Gu Fei made his bid, everyone who was interested in the mysterious ball was terrified. Without any suspense, the mysterious ball was going to be Gu Fei's. However, the prerequisite was that he could pay 200,000 kilograms of high-grade immortal crystals. Dao friend Gu, if you can't take out 200,000 kilograms of high-grade immortal crystals, then you'll be in trouble, He Fei from the He clan said with a fake smile. Phut, we can even take out golden immortal swords, let alone 200,000 kilograms of high-grade immortal crystals. Mo Xian glanced at He Fei in disdain. He Fei's expression changed when he heard that, then he laughed and said, that's for the best. At this time, The auction had ended, but no one had left. Many people were watching the show. Ji Yufei was someone who dared to kill the second son of East Peak City's Castellan. Moreover, 200,000 catties of high-grade immortal crystals was not a small amount. With so many high-grade immortal crystals, it could be described as a mountain. Many people were waiting to see Ji Yufei make a fool of himself. Soon, the auctioneer arrived before Ji Yufei. "Fellow Daoist Ji Yu, please pay 200,000 catties of high-grade immortal crystals. Of course, you can also pay with items of equal value," the black-robed old man said politely. When it came to a big customer like Ji Yufei, they naturally had to serve him with great care and humility. "I don't have 200,000 high-grade immortal crystals." Ji Yufei pondered for a moment and said, "What?" As soon as Ji Yufei said this, the scene immediately burst into an uproar. "Ha ha! Fellow Daoist Ji Yu, your joke is a bit too much. You dare to bid without immortal crystals?" Yufei laughed. He was the happiest one. Who asked Ji Yufei to embarrass him just now? "Fellow Daoist Ji Yu, you," the auctioneer's expression changed. "I thought this kid was from some big family. Turns out he's just a useless hedonistic son who likes to show off. If you don't have immortal crystals, then shut up. Do you think it's fun to bid like others?" A wave of sarcasm and ridicule was directed towards Ji Yufei. "You bastards." Zhu Ziru and Mo Xian were furious. Ji Yufei was still calm. "Fellow Daoist Ji Yu, since you've bid for the item, then you should pay. Is that right?" the auctioneer said coldly. His attitude changed drastically. "Yes, that's right." Ji Yufei nodded calmly. "Sigh, I really admire this fella. Even at this moment, he's still so calm." Someone sighed. "Then fellow Daoist, come with me," the auctioneer said disdainfully. Those who dared to cause trouble at the East Prefecture Immortal Residences auction never had a good ending. Master, Zhu Ziru was a little anxious. Only Mo Xian was still calm. "I said I don't have high-grade immortal crystals. But I didn't say that I won't pay," Ji Yufei said indifferently. He had already seen through these people's faces. These fellas were all people who bullied the weak and feared the strong. "Oh!" The auctioneer was startled when he heard this. The surrounding people were also stunned. From the beginning to the end, Ji Yufei really did not say that he would not pay the bill. "Please calculate how many supreme-grade immortal crystals are equivalent to 200,000 jin of high-grade immortal crystals." Ji Yufei looked at the old man in front of him and said. The auctioneer was a worldly immortal, an expert in the Great Perfection realm. He was much stronger than Zhong Zhenue. However, this fella was just an ant in front of him. The auctioneer's expression changed several times before he said, 10 jin of supreme-grade immortal crystals is equivalent to 200,000 jin of high-grade immortal crystals. "Only 10 jin," Ji Yufei said disapprovingly. However, Ji Yufei's words made the surrounding people confused. Supreme-grade immortal crystals were enough for a godly state martial artist to break through to the worldly immortal realm. 10 supreme-grade immortal crystals were enough for a person to cultivate to the earthly immortal realm. Moreover, supreme-grade immortal crystals were extremely rare. Even if a large immortal crystal mine was completely mined, there wouldn't even be 100 jin of supreme-grade immortal crystals. Ji Yufei directly took out 5 jin of supreme-grade immortal crystals and threw them to the old man. He then waved his hand and the mysterious ball flew towards him. As the mysterious ball flew towards Ji Yufei, it rapidly shrank. When it landed on Ji Yufei's hand, it became the size of a fist. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw this. "What's going on? This thing can change?" someone exclaimed. "A bunch of blind fools," Ji Yufei said disdainfully. Then, he tightened his grip on the ball. Catcher! Cracks appeared on the ball. Then, beams of dazzling divine light shone through the cracks on the ball, and an extremely powerful dragon chi filled every inch of the void in an instant. The mysterious ball turned out to be a divine pearl. The powerful dragon chi turned into small dragons that circled around the pearl in Ji Yufei's hand. A dragon pearl? Everyone's eyeballs almost fell to the ground when they saw this. No one expected this mysterious ball to be a dragon pearl. Moreover, the dragon chi emitted from the dragon pearl was extremely pure. It was definitely not something that mixed dragons could compare to. Chapter 4032. The mysterious ball that Ji Yufei bid for was actually a dragon pearl. This caused all those who mocked him to shut their mouths. Their expressions were incomparably fascinating. Especially the person in charge of the auction, he almost coughed out blood. He actually couldn't see through the legendary dragon pearl in front of him. Someone used a secret art to seal this dragon pearl. Even heavenly immortals or golden immortals wouldn't be able to see through it. Only Ji Yufei would be able to see through it with a single glance. Congratulations, fellow Daoist. That old man had an incomparably bitter expression on his face. After that, he bid farewell to Ji Yufei and directly entered the backstage area. The others who mocked and ridiculed Ji Yufei quietly left. Master, is this the dragon pearl? Ju Ziru curiously asked as she stared at the dragon pearl in Ji Yufei's hand. This is a dragon pearl left behind by a true dragon from the 9 heavens. Ji Yufei smiled. A true dragon from the 9 heavens was a true dragon race, incomparably powerful. An adult true dragon could contend against immortals and gods. A true dragon from the 9 heavens? Ju Ziru and Mozian were incomparably shocked. The supreme origin realm they were in didn't even have true dragons. But in this immortal martial realm, there might be terrifying existences that could destroy the heavens and earth. Let's leave too, Ji Yufei said as he kept the dragon pearl in his hand. He brought Ju Ziru and Mozian away from the auction house. Just as they were about to leave the auction house, they were blocked by 3 people. Hand over the dragon pearl and scram, the young man in the lead coldly spoke to Ji Yufei. You guys are courting death. Mozian raged. We are indeed courting death. But the problem is, can you guys kill us? Ha. The young man in the lead sneered. Then you can go to hell. Ji Yufei suddenly stretched out his right hand, causing the young man in front of him to fly towards his hand involuntarily. After that, Ji Yufei grabbed him and exerted force, instantly destroying his soul. What? Seeing this scene, the other 2 were scared silly. Who was this guy? How could he be so powerful? Preposterous. The information given by the Liu family was inaccurate. Tell me, who are you? If I'm in a good mood, I might let you go. Ji Yufei looked indifferently at the 2 people in front of him and said, We are from the Black Devil sect. The 2 cultivators quickly said. In order to survive, even if they were told to jump into a manure pit, they would not even blink. Black Demon sect. Ji Yufei couldn't help but frown. He had just arrived here and hadn't heard of the Black Devil sect. However, forces that were related to the word devil were not to be trifled with. Scram. Go back and tell your master that if he dares to provoke me again, I will destroy his sect. Ji Yufei was getting impatient. The 2 men hurriedly ran away in fear. At this time, a figure flashed behind a tree in the distance and disappeared in an instant. Ji Yufei didn't care about those mysterious fellas. After returning to his courtyard, he went into seclusion to concoct a cauldron of great medicine. Concocting a great medicine was not an easy task. Ji Yufei directly stabbed a divine sword into the ground and entered his secret chamber to start his seclusion. The divine sword emitted a terrifying aura that made people's hearts palpitate. It was as if the strongest sword chi could be released at any time. A sword can scare those people away, Ju Ziru said worriedly. One must know that in East Peak City, there were many immortal cultivators. Especially during this period of time when the descendants of the various sects and clans were pouring into East Peak City. At this time, it was unknown how many immortals had come to East Peak City. Of course, Ji Yufei wasn't afraid of these fellas. However, these immortal cultivators posed a great threat to Ju Ziru and Mozian. At this time, in a valley 10 miles away from East Peak City, the 2 people that Ji Yufei let go were kneeling on the ground. Qi Ming is dead. How is this possible? The Black Devil sect's ancestor stared at the 2 disciples lying on the ground. He almost slapped them to death. I want to see if that person has 3 heads and 6 arms. He actually dared to kill my disciple. The Black Devil sect's ancestor gritted his teeth. East Peak City, City Lord Mansion. I didn't expect that fella's luck to be so good. He actually used 200,000 catties of high-grade immortal crystals to bid for a dragon pearl. Liu Rufeng was filled with jealousy and envy. So what if he's lucky? He will still die. The City Lord of East Peak City gritted his teeth. Although his second son was a bastard, he was still his son. How could he let someone else kill him? It wasn't like he had never killed a genius before. Father, the Black Devil sect, Liu Rufeng said hesitantly. He just received news that Ji Yufei killed the Black Devil sect's ancestor's direct disciple, Qi Ming. This was a good thing for them. It would be best if Ji Yufei and the Black Devil sect could fight to the death. There's no need to care about them. Let's wait and see. The City Lord said coldly. Yes. Liu Rufeng hurriedly replied. Night fell. The sky was filled with stars and a moon hung on the horizon. Outside Ji Yufei's courtyard, a black figure silently appeared. The moment the figure appeared, the divine sword that was stuck in the ground suddenly made a buzzing sound. It turned into a sword light and flashed. The black figure's head fell to the ground. Two figures walked out from the darkness. They were Juziru and Mozian. Master is so powerful, Juziru exclaimed. I didn't expect it either. Mozian nodded. The power of the sword left behind by Ji Yufei was shocking. It could actually turn into a sword light and kill those intruders. After dealing with the corpse, they entered the house to continue cultivating. For cultivators, especially those above the Xiantian realm, they would use a lot of time to cultivate. They wouldn't dare to slack off. Very quickly, another group of people appeared outside Ji Yufei's courtyard. This time, those mysterious people didn't dare to barge into the courtyard. They only watched from the outside. Only when the sun rose did those mysterious people leave. At this time, Ji Yufei was in the secret room, using his own true fire to concoct pills. Very quickly, a medicinal fragrance filled the air. Even Juziru, who was guarding outside the stone door, smelled it. Success! Outside the stone door, Juziru and Mozian were pleasantly surprised. Ji Yufei used the dragon pearl to concoct the rising dragon pill. One rising dragon pill was enough for a Xiantian realm cultivator to break through to the godly realm. This was the rising dragon pill. One rising dragon pill was enough to change a cultivator's life. Boom! At this moment, a loud sound came from the secret room. The entire secret room shook. Juziru and Mozian, who were outside, were scared half to death by this sudden sound. Chapter 4033. East Peak City. In the courtyard of the East Manor, Ji Yufei had successfully refined 8 rising dragon pills. A pearl of a true dragon could allow a Xiantian realm cultivator's cultivation base to break through to the immortal realm. And for deity realm cultivators, after consuming the rising dragon pill, their cultivation base could directly break through to the immortal realm. One could say that a single rising dragon pill was enough to cause all cultivators below the immortal realm to go crazy. For such a pill, not to mention the East Peak City, even in the entire eastern region of the immortal martial realm, one wouldn't be able to find one. The rising dragon pill wasn't a medicinal pill of the immortal martial realm. Ji Yufei had obtained the pill formula by chance. Given his cultivation base, there was no pressure at all for him to concoct the rising dragon pill. Juziru and Mozian's cultivation bases were simply too low. One must know that this was the immortal martial realm, a place where martial immortals could be found everywhere. If it wasn't for Ji Yufei's protection, they wouldn't even be able to take a single step in the immortal martial realm. At this moment, the heavy stone door slowly opened as a silhouette walked out. Master, Brother Ji Yu. Juziru and Mozian, who had been guarding the stone door, hurriedly greeted him. 4 pills each, go and enter closed-door seclusion. Ji Yufei took out 2 jade bottles and passed them to Juziru and Mozian. Many thanks, Master. Many thanks, Brother Ji Yu. Juziru and Mozian joyfully kept the jade bottles and retreated, each entering their respective cultivation rooms to enter closed-door seclusion. Very swiftly, Powerful fluctuations of energy emanated from the 2 cultivation rooms. Especially Mosian. She was a Saint Realm expert. One rising dragon pill would allow her to break through to the peak of God Realm. Another would allow her to break through to the immortal God Realm. Rumble, 6 hours later, tribulation clouds actually condensed in the airspace above the East Manor immortal residence. The entire sky turned pitch black, so dark that one couldn't even see their fingers if they stretched their hands out. Occasionally, blinding lightning flashed within the tribulation clouds, illuminating the entire area. A terrifying aura of destruction descended from the skies. What's going on? What happened? Who's undergoing tribulation? In an instant, the entire East Peak City was in an uproar. Countless powerful spiritual waves rushed out from all over the city, sweeping towards the East Manor immortal abode. Gu Fei sneered, and the divine sword that was stuck in the courtyard suddenly trembled. In the next moment, a ball of sword light spread from the divine sword and enveloped the entire courtyard in an instant. The ball of sword light blocked all of the divine sense that was sweeping towards it. It's where Gu Fei is. Someone cried out in alarm. Gu Fei was now famous in East Peak City. Even if all the cultivators in the city had not seen him before, they would definitely have heard of his name. It was all because Gu Fei was too powerful. Not only did he kill the second son of the city lord, but he also defeated Zhong Zhenyue, one of the city lord's most powerful warriors, who was known as the Killing Immortal. After that, he won a true dragon divine pearl at an auction for 200,000 kilograms of high-grade immortal crystals. The news spread and the whole city was in an uproar. Now, someone was undergoing tribulation in Gu Fei's residence. What was going on? Could it be that Gu Fei was undergoing the Earth Immortal Heavenly Tribulation? But that didn't seem to be the case. If Gu Fei triggered the Earth Immortal Heavenly Tribulation, the tribulation cloud would probably cover thousands of miles. The destructive power of the Heavenly Tribulation was something that even immortals and gods would fear. The Heavenly Tribulation that appeared in East Peak City had clouds covering thousands of miles. This meant that someone was undergoing the heavenly tribulation of a human immortal. Could it be that the 2 girls beside Gu Fei are undergoing their tribulation? City Lord Mansion, Liu family. Liu Rufeng's expression was extremely ugly. The Black Devil sect is quiet. A mysterious person shrouded in black qi spoke up beside Liu Rufeng. Those guys from the Black Devil sect are just like that. Too cowardly. They can't do anything. Liu Rufeng said disapprovingly. Many people have their eyes on the dragon pearl in that guy's hand. Even if we don't make a move, there will be people who will find trouble with that guy. The Green King seems to have left his lair and is heading straight for East Peak City. The mysterious person said. There will be a good show soon. Liu Rufeng said in a gloating tone. The Green King was one of the few experts in the eastern domain of the immortal martial realm. His cultivation had already reached the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm, and he had already stepped half a foot into the Heavenly Immortal Realm. To the Green King, the true Dragon Pearl was incomparably important. It could allow him to directly step into the Heavenly Immortal Realm. The Green King was definitely here for the Dragon Pearl in Gu Fei's hand. However, nobody knew that Gu Fei had already refined the true Dragon Pearl into 8 ascending dragon pills. The ascending dragon pill was actually very useful to Earth immortals. For an expert like the Green King who had already stepped half a foot into the Heavenly Immortal Realm, a single pill was enough to allow him to break through. However, the ascending dragon pill was useless to experts who were above the Heavenly Immortal Realm. Boom! At this moment, the sky above the East Manor immortal residence rumbled as a terrifying aura of destruction descended. All the living beings in the city were incomparably terrified. Who's going through the heavenly tribulation? Are you crazy? How dare you go through the heavenly tribulation in the city? Do you want everyone in the city to die with you? A hot-tempered immortal rushed out and yelled at the courtyard where Gu Fei was. The immortal activated his divine ability. His voice directly penetrated Gu Fei's sword aura and reverberated in the courtyard. It was extremely shocking. Noisy. Ji Fei waved his right hand, and the divine sword that was stuck in the courtyard immediately soared into the sky. It turned into a shocking sword aura and slashed at the immortal. An immortal sword aura lit up the entire heaven and earth, as if the sword had split the heaven and earth in half. It instantly landed on the immortal's head. What? The immortal was shocked and quickly dodged to the side. A strand of white hair fell from the sky. The immortal was truly shocked. If he had been half a step slower, wouldn't he have been split in half by the sword? The thought of it made him break out in a cold sweat. What an arrogant guy. Does he think he's invincible just because he defeated Zhong Jinyue? A voice was heard. Then, another immortal appeared in the void. Fellow cultivators, what's the point of talking to this madman? Let's attack together and wipe this arrogant guy off the face of the earth. Another immortal appeared in the distant sky. A terrifying immortal aura appeared in the sky. With the arrival of the two immortal spirits, the might of the immortal spirits filled the entire world. The entire void seemed as though it was about to solidify. Countless martial artists in East Peak City were terrified to the extreme. 3 immortals had their eyes on Ji Fei at the same time. Scram, or die. Ji Fei extended his right hand and the divine sword immediately flew back into his hand. Chapter 40-34. The Galaxy Sword Immortal, Old Man Tianfeng, and the Saber Taoist were the strongest immortals in East Peak City. Yet, the 3 of them could not even block a single strike from Ji Fei. Everyone who witnessed this scene was shocked to the core. Those were 3 worldly immortals who were closest to becoming Earth immortals. Yet, they were killed just like that. Ji Fei's terrifying strike had stunned everyone. No one dared to say anything else. Is he really only a worldly immortal? Liu Rufeng's expression was extremely ugly within the city lord's residence. Looks like I will have to leave for a while. The East Peak City Lord said with a solemn expression. Father, are you going to? Liu Rufeng heard this and immediately thought of something. That's right. If I succeed, I can destroy this Ji Fei with a flip of my hand. The City Lord's eyes were as vicious as a viper's. The City Lord of East Peak was a vengeful person. He could only endure until now because he could not see through Ji Fei and the others. Haha, Ji Fei is dead for sure. Just let him live for a while longer. Liu Rufeng said with a laugh. After I leave, you must endure. The City Lord said solemnly. I know, Father. Liu Rufeng nodded. Immediately, a ray of light rushed out of the City Lord's mansion of East Peak City and disappeared into the dark world in the blink of an eye. Rumble, at this moment, the might of the heavens and earth exploded. Billions of living beings trembled. Countless martial artists in East Peak City were terrified. The higher their cultivation, the more terrified they were. The immortal realm martial artists' souls were already trembling. They could not withstand the terrifying pressure from the sky. Many immortal realm martial artists chose to retreat from East Peak City. They had no choice but to retreat. Once their souls were damaged, it would be a disaster for them. There were also some immortal realm martial artists with immortal equipment. With the protection of immortal equipment, they were not afraid of the terrifying aura from the sky. At this moment, East Peak City was shrouded in terror. The tribulation clouds in the sky had almost descended upon the city. Blinding bolts of lightning tore through the void and broke through the tribulation clouds, illuminating the entire world. Ji Fei, on the other hand, stood in the sky above East Peak City, protecting Mozian. One man and one sword had shaken East Peak and made all the human immortals in East Peak City bow their heads. His invincible demeanor was imprinted in the minds of countless experts. Roar. Just at this moment, a long whistle rang out. Then, with a loud bang, one of the houses in the East Manor suddenly exploded, and a figure directly rushed out from inside. As soon as the figure appeared, endless lightning bolts descended from the tribulation cloud. Every bolt of lightning seemed to have a mind of its own. Like electric snakes, they coiled around the figure. That person was Mozian. With the help of the rising dragon pill, Mozian's cultivation finally broke through to the immortal realm, welcoming her immortal god heavenly tribulation. Once she passed the heavenly tribulation, she would become a true immortal god. Mosyan-Er's body shook, and a powerful wave of energy surged out, dispersing the countless bolts of lightning that coiled around her. Mosyan-Er's hands moved, and a yin-yang Tao diagram immediately appeared in the void. Yin-yang demonic energy circulated, and the surrounding power of heaven and earth immediately gathered towards her. She actually used the power of the heavenly tribulation for her own use. Someone exclaimed, "She's crazy. She actually dared to do this. Isn't she afraid of dying?" Someone exclaimed, "Since she dared to do this, she must be fearless." Someone glanced at Ji Yufei in the sky and said, Mosyan-Er manifested yin and yang, drawing the power of the heavenly tribulation to her body. Her aura instantly rose to a terrifying level. Next, Mosyan-Er used the power of yin and yang to block the countless lightning bolts descending from the sky. The energy waves emitted from her body became stronger and stronger. The aura of a demon immortal filled the sky. Mosyan-Er cultivated the demon Tao technique. She was a demon. Of course, with Ji Yufei's methods, he could totally transform Mosyan-Er into a righteous cultivator. However, he didn't do so. Because, no matter if it was an immortal, a demon, or a demon, not all of them were evil. Demons, as long as they had a kind heart, they would be a good demon. Ji Yufei believed that no one was born evil. After the lightning tribulation, it was time for the transformation heavenly tribulation. Within the heavenly tribulation, there were vaguely terrifying living beings appearing. They were like spirits in the lightning, bringing destruction with them as they descended from the sky. Boom! A beast that emitted endless bolts of lightning directly collided with Mosyan-Er's yin-yang Tao diagram. In the next moment, Mosyan-Er's body shook violently, and the yin-yang Tao diagram almost collapsed. Yin-yang chaos. Mosyan-Er executed the great technique that Ji Yufei imparted to her. The power of yin and yang surged out, causing the entire sky and earth to become chaotic. The surrounding heavenly tribulation's power frantically gathered towards her and was devoured by her body. Mosyan-Er was like a bottomless black hole, devouring all the spiritual energy in the surroundings. Even the heavenly tribulation's power was devoured by her. Heaven-devouring demonic art? Ji Yufei was a little surprised. Mosyan-Er actually cultivated this demon Tao mystic art. Legend has it that this was a demonic art that was passed down by a heaven-devouring beast. That heaven-devouring beast was a supreme existence that could even devour the heavens. When the heaven-devouring demonic art was cultivated to small success, it could devour the sun, moon, and stars. It possessed great power. Mosyan-Er didn't seem to have obtained the complete heaven-devouring demonic art. It was just a severely damaged cultivation technique. She cultivated to the immortal god realm, yet she couldn't even condense a heaven-devouring devil shadow. This shouldn't be, it really shouldn't be. Ji Yufei had the complete heaven-devouring demonic art. Why is the heavenly tribulation so terrifying? The human immortals in East Peak City were dumbfounded. The lightning tribulation that took form was the most terrifying heavenly tribulation in the legends. Whenever such a heavenly tribulation appeared, the person undergoing the heavenly tribulation would definitely die. There was no record of anyone surviving the heavenly tribulation that took form. This woman is dead for sure. A human immortal from the older generation said. What a pity. Such a supreme demon immortal is actually going to die under the heavenly tribulation. Someone shook his head and sighed. Ji Yufei stood in the void. With his cultivation, he could naturally hear the people in the city. He looked at Mosyan-Er, who was undergoing the heavenly tribulation. He was very confident in Mosyan-Er. Moreover, with him around, even if Mosyan-Er failed the heavenly tribulation, it wouldn't be a big deal. At this moment, the cultivation room that Zhu Ziru was in was already enveloped by the formation that Ji Yufei had set up beforehand, isolating all the auras from the outside world. Even the power of the heavenly tribulation wouldn't be able to affect Zhu Ziru, who was in seclusion. At this moment, 9 giant beasts formed by the power of the lightning tribulation appeared in the lightning tribulation. The 9 giant beasts pounced out from the lightning tribulation towards Mosyan-Er. Kill! Mosyan-Er roared angrily. Yin-yang demonic energy exploded from her body. At this moment, a faint demon shadow appeared on her body. It roared towards the sky. Chapter 40:35. Mosian-Er's heavenly tribulation was terrifying to the heavens. It was actually the transformation lightning tribulation of the immortal martial realm. This type of heavenly tribulation was one of the strongest in the immortal martial realm. The transformation lightning tribulation could annihilate and destroy everything. In the records of the immortal martial realm, there had never been anyone who could survive the transformation lightning tribulation, not even once. This was the terror of the transformation lightning tribulation. In the immortal martial realm, the transformation lightning tribulation represented death, absolute death. All the deities in the immortal martial realm were most afraid of the transformation lightning tribulation when they broke through to the human immortal realm. At this moment, a scene occurred in the skies, causing all the cultivators in the East Peak City to be dumbfounded, shocked to the extreme. "Grandpa, what's that? There's something rushing out from the lightning." A little girl pointed to the skies as she spoke to an old man beside her. The old man stared at the scene in the skies, his countenance incomparably heavy. "That's the living being in the lightning." The old man mumbled to himself. Rumble, 9 terrifying silhouettes broke through the tribulation clouds and charged towards Mosian-Er, who was below the tribulation clouds. Each of the silhouettes emitted a terrifying aura that shook the heavens and earth, causing the hearts of countless cultivators to palpitate. It was as though the entire world was about to be destroyed. "Die!" Mosian-Er roared in rage, directly rushing towards the 9 terrifying silhouettes, only to see a blurry silhouette appearing from her body. The moment that devil silhouette appeared, it instantly inhaled, swallowing the 9 silhouettes that were radiating boundless lightning in a single gulp. After swallowing the 9 blurry beast silhouettes, the demonic silhouette that emerged from Mosian-Er's body became clearer. It was a demonic beast. Although it was blurry, the terrifying aura emitted from the demonic beast caused the heavens and earth to change color. Upon seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded. Only Jiyu Fei's lips curled upwards, revealing a smile. Mosian-Er finally condensed the heaven-devouring devil silhouette, and the moment it appeared, it actually swallowed the transformation lightning tribulation. Such power was incomparably shocking. Even Jiyu Fei's countenance changed. This heaven-devouring devil art was indeed powerful and tyrannical. How is this possible? When a white-haired human immortal saw what was happening up in the sky, his eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Someone actually dared to devour tribulation lightning. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed it. This is crazy. All the human immortals were stunned. What kind of demonic technique is this? On the roof of the city lord's mansion, Liu Rufeng was scared out of his wits. He didn't expect Mosian-Er to be this strong. If she successfully passed her tribulation, who in East Peak City could be her opponent? Humph. As long as father returns successfully, your time of death will come. Liu Rufeng gritted his teeth and muttered to himself. The power of the demonic heaven-gorging art was unimaginable to the human immortals in East Peak City. The moment the demonic shadow appeared, Mosian-Er actually blocked the transformation heavenly tribulation. The more demonic shadows that appeared on Mosian-Er's body swallowed, the stronger they became. Yes, it's time to end this. Jiyu Fei raised his head and looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky. Mosian-Er's heaven tribulation had reached its most crucial moment. The boundless power of heavenly tribulation was rapidly condensing. Roar! A gigantic demonic shadow the size of a mountain appeared in the tribulation clouds. This demonic shadow roared towards the sky and directly dispersed the tribulation clouds. Everyone was shocked to the extreme. The entire heaven and earth shone brightly. Extremely bright lightning tore through the void. Each lightning bolt was tens of miles long. And the source of all the destructive lightning bolts was a terrifying demonic shadow. Thunder Beast, that's the legendary Thunder Beast. Someone in East Peak City cried out in surprise. Although it wasn't a real Thunder Beast, it was only condensed from the power of heavenly tribulation. However, the aura that erupted from this demonic shadow was too shocking. This demonic shadow only roared and countless cracks appeared in the sky. Boom! The demonic shadow shook and endless destructive power exploded. Mosian was directly blown away. She kept coughing out blood. Even the demonic shadow that appeared on her body was about to dissipate in the void. The final battle, victory or defeat, will be decided in one move. Mosian knew that the most dangerous moment had arrived. If she could endure it, she would be able to become an immortal. If she couldn't, she would die. This world was very fair. If she wanted to obtain great power, she had to pay more. Mosian fought desperately against the thunder beast. In an instant, the entire heaven and earth shook. Occasionally, terrifying spatial cracks would appear in the sky. In the end, although Mosian successfully dispersed the demonic shadow, she also suffered unimaginable injuries. She lost half of her life and fainted, falling from the sky. Ji Yufei waved his hand and Mosian flew back to him. Then, he carried her and disappeared in the void. They entered the inner world. Where did they go? The human immortals in the city were dumbfounded. They actually didn't see how Ji Yufei and Mosian left. Ji Yufei carried Mosian to the immortal transformation lake and placed her inside. Mosian soaked in the lake. The wounds on her body disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. Very soon, the injuries caused by the lightning power were completely healed. She seemed to have obtained a new life. Her entire person went through a transformation. Mosian's physique became the immortal devil physique. Immortal energy and demonic energy actually merged perfectly in her body. One yin, one yang, one immortal, one demon. The impossible became possible. This, even though Ji Yufei was very knowledgeable, he was shocked. He seemed to have seen the changes in Mosian before. Dongfang Chen. That's right, it was Dongfang Chen. When he was in the Supreme Mystery Sect, Dongfang Chen cultivated the immortal devil mysterious art. However, Mosian was an immortal god. She cultivated the heaven-devouring demonic art and also the yin-yang grand Tao. She was much stronger than Dongfang Chen in the past. I didn't expect her to walk such a different path to become an expert. Ji Yufei looked at Mosian in the lake and pondered. At this moment, in East Peak City, the tribulation clouds that just dissipated gathered again. A terrifying destructive aura enveloped the entire East Peak City. What's going on? The tribulation hasn't ended yet. All the martial artists in East Peak City were dumbfounded. The heavenly tribulation just now has already ended. Someone has triggered it again. The human immortal from the older generation looked at the sky and said in shock. What? Chapter 4036. The tribulation clouds once again enveloped the entire city. The cultivators in East Peak City were going crazy. What day was it today? Tribulation after tribulation, they were going to be played to death by these fellows. Countless cultivators in the city were extremely unhappy, but they couldn't do anything about it. Even the human immortals in the city had lost their temper. Everyone was apprehensive because the people undergoing tribulation were the two girls that Ji Yufei had brought here. Mosian succeeded and was brought into his inner world by Ji Yufei. And now, Juziru also attracted her tribulation. Rumble, the terrifying might of heaven and earth descended from the heavens, causing the entire East Peak City to tremble. Countless bolts of lightning tore through the darkness, directly striking down towards a house below. That house was where Juziru was in seclusion. Just as the tribulation lightning was about to descend, a ball of five-colored divine light appeared in the void and blocked all the tribulation lightning. The human immortals in East Peak City couldn't help but be shocked when they saw this. Formation. Patriarch Nine Sons, a human immortal of the older generation, cried out. When one's cultivation reached the pinnacle, they would be able to comprehend Tao inscriptions and set up formations. However, to comprehend Tao inscriptions and set up formations wasn't something that a human immortal could do. This was at least the means of a heavenly immortal. Ji Yufei was merely a human immortal. How could he set up formations? How was this possible? This had already surpassed the understanding of all the cultivators in the immortal martial realm. One must know that in the immortal martial realm, No one had ever heard of a human immortal being able to comprehend Tao inscriptions and set up formations. The immortal martial realm was merely a mid-tier world. The Nine Sons ancestor and the rest wouldn't have thought that Jiyu Fei came from the primogenitor realm, the origin of the myriad of worlds. The immortal ascension tribulation was terrifying. The East Manor immortal residents suffered heavy losses this time. The first wave of tribulation lightning descended, with the house Juziru was in as the center. Everything within a radius of 1,000 feet was blasted into smithereens. At this moment, all the cultivators in the East Manor immortal residents had already fled. Actually, when Mozian was undergoing her tribulation, the East Manor immortal residence was already empty. Countless martial artists in East Peak City were fighting to escape from East Peak City. Even the mortals in the city were terrified to the extreme in the face of this terrifying doomsday scene. Countless people rushed to the city gate. To the human immortals' surprise, Juziru's tribulation was very smooth. Jiyu Fei's great formation helped her block most of the tribulation's power. In the end, the formation collapsed, and Juziru directly rushed out of the house. She drew heavenly lightning to her body and tempered her martial body, cultivating the terrifying extreme yin immortal martial body. With a thought, 1,000 miles of ice was sealed. Juziru was even more powerful than Mozian. Although Mozian had the celestial and demon body, in essence, Mozian cultivated the yin-yang Tao. On the other hand, Juziru cultivated the most orthodox martial arts technique taught by Jiyu Fei, the extreme yin martial body, which was enough to suppress all opponents of the same level, making her almost invincible. Juziru was like the supreme female Emperor Xian. With one strike, she destroyed the heavenly tribulation's power. Her invincible demeanor shocked everyone. Too powerful, even the old human immortals like Ancestor Joyoung were ashamed of their inferiority. Swoosh! At the moment when Juziru destroyed the heavenly tribulation's power, a black spear suddenly pierced through the void and pierced towards her forehead. Me. Juziru pointed a finger at the tip of the black spear. In the next moment, the black spear instantly shattered into dust. Boom! At the same time, a pitch-black hand emitted endless demonic power. Like a black demonic mountain, it slammed towards Juziru. The terrifying demonic power spread in all directions. The entire heaven and earth seemed like it was about to be smashed by this huge hand. Damn it! Juziru had just passed the immortal god heavenly tribulation. She had used up 80 to 90% of her martial Dao Yuan Qi. Facing such a powerful attack, she could not help but be in danger. Swoosh! Juziru used the Decimo steps. With a single step, she instantly dashed thousands of feet away. However, the black demonic hand that was descending from the sky followed her like a shadow and slammed down on Juziru's head. What? Juziru was shocked, but she did not panic in the face of danger. Overturning the heavens with one hand, Juziru directly used her killer move. As she raised her right hand, the entire heaven and earth seemed to have suddenly turned upside down. It was terrifying. Endless power of yin surged out and froze everything. The black demonic hand that was descending from the sky was directly frozen in the void. The power of the overturning the heavens exploded, and the huge hand directly shattered in the void. Good. A loud shout came from the sky. Terrifying sound waves reverberated between heaven and earth. The void exploded, and countless pitch-black spatial cracks appeared. Even the clouds in the sky were shaken away. A person directly broke through the void and walked out. Juziru's expression became extremely solemn when she saw this. The patriarch of the Black Demon sect? Ancestor Joyoung immediately exclaimed when he saw that person. What? This person is the Black Demon sect's patriarch? How is that possible? Isn't he in a life-and-death seclusion? He won't come out until he becomes an Earth Immortal. Did he become an Earth Immortal? The human immortals in East Peak City were inexplicably shocked. It was too difficult for a human immortal to break through to the Earth Immortal realm. After stepping into the Earth Immortal realm, every increase in level required unimaginable effort. The Black Demon sect's patriarch had finally become an Earth Immortal after cultivating for tens of thousands of years. Little girl, you're not bad. Why don't you return to the Black Demon sect with me and become my Tao companion? The Black Demon sect's patriarch's entire body was shrouded in demonic qi. 2 blood-red pupils were faintly discernible in the demonic qi, as if they could steal one's soul. What did you say? Ju Ziru was instantly enraged when she heard the Black Demon sect's patriarch's words. How dare this guy be so presumptuous as soon as he appeared? It's a blessing that you've cultivated for several lifetimes to be the Tao companion of my sect's patriarch. Don't make a mistake. At this time, another voice sounded. An old man with his head lowered appeared beside the Black Demon sect's patriarch. Black Demon sect's mad demon Xue Fanyun? The 9 sons' patriarch and the others were taken aback when they saw the old man. Kai Mo was not a good person. He was a malefic star in the Black Demon sect. If Kai Mo went berserk, even the Black Demon sect's patriarch would not be able to suppress him. Make a mistake, my ass. Ju Ziru roared angrily and directly slapped at the Black Demon sect's patriarch. A terrifying power of extreme yin erupted, and the entire void froze in an instant. However, the Black Demon sect's patriarch merely pointed a finger and directly broke through the void that was sealed by Ju Ziru's extreme yin power. A pitch-black finger light, like a peerless spear, instantly pierced through Ju Ziru's body. What? Ju Ziru was truly shocked. Could this guy really be an Earth Immortal? An Earth Immortal was strong enough to destroy cities and countries. One strike could sink an entire mountain range and kill countless living beings. Most importantly, an Earth Immortal could mobilize the power of heaven and earth that was 10 times or even dozens of times that of a human immortal. Once an Earth Immortal's domain was unleashed, he would immediately be in an invincible position. Ju Ziru took a step forward and instantly disappeared. When she reappeared, she was already thousands of feet away. Her speed was astonishing. The Black Demon sect's patriarch's eyes lit up. He then stretched out his hand, and his 5 fingers instantly became as big as a mountain, enveloping Ju Ziru in an instant. Damn it! Ju Ziru knew that she was definitely no match for this guy. Ultimate Blade Slash. Ju Ziru clasped her hands together, and all the extreme yin power in her body frantically gathered towards her hands. Terrifying energy waves surged from her body. Swoosh! With just one slash, an immortal blade light directly soared from Ju Ziru's hands. It directly broke through the huge hand that came down from the sky like a hot knife through butter, and instantly slashed at the Black Demon sect's patriarch. A little interesting. The Black Demon sect's patriarch smiled. He waved his right hand and directly shattered the blade light, and was about to make another move to capture Ju Ziru. However, Ju Ziru slipped away. Do you think you can escape? The Black Demon sect's patriarch chuckled. In the next moment, the power of his domain erupted, and instantly enveloped a radius of several miles. Ju Ziru only felt her body tense up, and then her entire body involuntarily flew towards the Black Demon sect's patriarch. What? Ju Ziru turned pale with fright. Just as Ju Ziru was about to be captured by the Black Demon sect's patriarch, a huge hand suddenly reached out from the side, grabbed Ju Ziru, and forcefully pulled her back. Courting death. Kai Mo, who was beside the Black Demon sect's patriarch, suddenly raised his head. A powerful demonic might erupted from his body, and in the next moment, the old man who had his head lowered turned into a peerless demonic expert. Swoosh! Kai Mo took a step forward, and instantly appeared in front of the person who attacked. He smashed his fist towards that person, and a violent power erupted, directly shaking the void. That person sneered, and with a wave of his sleeve, Kai Mo immediately exploded, turning into a cloud of blood mist. He did not even have the chance to scream before he died. Everyone was dumbfounded by this scene. That was Kai Mo of the Black Demon sect. How could his body and soul be destroyed just like that? How was this possible? Kai Mo of the Black Demon sect was a powerful existence second only to the Black Dragon sect's patriarch. Yet, Kai Mo could not even withstand a single move from that person. Ji Yu Fei, in the sky above the City Lord's mansion, Liu Rufeng's pupils shrank when he saw that person. The Black Demon sect's patriarch had already broken through to the Earth Immortal realm, which was enough to sweep away all worldly immortals. However, the appearance of Ji Yu Fei shocked the patriarch greatly. Kill. Without any hesitation, the Black Demon Sect's patriarch unleashed his domain, swallowing Jiyu Fei and Zhu Ziru into it. Domain. Jiyu Fei smiled, then raised his hand, and the Black Demon Sect's domain immediately collapsed. The Black Demon Sect's patriarch suffered a great impact, and a trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Can't even withstand a single blow, Jiyu Fei said disdainfully. In his eyes, the so-called Earth Immortal domain was simply trash. As long as he was strong enough, he could easily break it. Chapter 4037. An earthly immortal's domain was incomparably powerful, capable of annihilating all human immortals. However, today, Jiyu Fei actually jumped levels to challenge earthly immortals, breaking the ironclad rule of the immortal martial realm that earthly immortals couldn't defeat earthly immortals. This caused countless cultivators in the East Peak City to be dumbfounded, filled with disbelief. How is this possible? The Nine Suns' ancestor was dumbfounded. Sword Immortal Clearwind's eyes almost popped out. The Lin clan's ancestor was so frightened that he directly fell from the sky. The Liu family's Liu Rufeng directly turned into a stone statue. This fellow actually, Liu Rufeng's voice trembled. The combat prowess displayed by Jiyu Fei was simply too heaven-defying. He actually broke the Black Demon ancestor's earthly immortal domain so easily. Alright, I'll send you on your way. Jiyu Fei stared at the Black Demon ancestor as though he was looking at a dead man. In his eyes, an earthly immortal was nothing but a joke. Even if a heavenly immortal came, he wouldn't fear him. The iron rules of the immortal martial realm were nothing to Jiyu Fei. Damn it! The Black Demon ancestor was both shocked and enraged. At this moment, his intestines were green with regret. He shouldn't have agreed to that old bastard's request. Although this fellow named Jiyu Fei only had a cultivation base of a human immortal, he was a freak. He could actually break the limit and easily break the Black Demon ancestor's earthly immortal domain. Swish! The Black Demon ancestor soared into the sky, transforming into a beam of demonic light as he fled. He had no choice but to flee. His greatest trump card, the earthly immortal domain, had already been broken by this young man. He no longer had any trump cards left. Why would the Black Demon ancestor stay here and wait for his death? Want to leave? Jiyu Fei laughed. He stretched out his right hand and the demonic light that was about to disappear was directly caught in his hand. What? The demonic light dissipated. The Black Demon ancestor's silhouette appeared in Jiyu Fei's hand. He had turned into a thumb-sized person, imprisoned in Jiyu Fei's palm. Don't kill me. The Black Demon sect ancestor's shock was no small matter. You have no value to me, Jiyu Fei said, and was about to crush the Black Fiend sect ancestor to death. Wait, the City Lord of East Peak City wants to harm you. I can help you get rid of him. The Black Fiend patriarch hurriedly said. Oh. However, I killed his son, so it's normal for him to seek revenge on me. Jiyu Fei said indifferently. I'm willing to do anything for you. Master, please don't kill me. The Black Demon patriarch trembled. Master, we are in need of manpower. Why don't we spare his life? Zhu Ziru said. An Earth Immortal was an extremely powerful existence. Even in the entire East Peak region, an Earth Immortal was the strongest existence. The Black Demon Cult Master could definitely sweep through an entire region. Since that's the case, I'll spare your life. After saying that, Jiyu Fei directly planted a forbidden technique on the Black Fiend sect ancestor's body. The Black Fiend sect ancestor's life and death were in his hands. Thank you, Master, for sparing my life. The Black Fiend sect ancestor quickly knelt at Jiyu Fei's feet after escaping. Damn it. The City Lord's mansion. Liu Rufeng sensed that something was amiss and immediately rushed into the mansion. In the next moment, a teleportation array in the mansion lit up. Go, help me get rid of the Liu clan. Jiyu Fei said to the Black Fiend sect ancestor. Yes, Master. The Black Fiend sect ancestor quickly accepted the order. Liu clan, I'm sorry. It's either you die or I die. He then rushed down from the sky and directly killed his way into the City Lord's mansion. With just a single strike, the entire mansion was blasted to smithereens. Dust filled the air, and everyone in the city was shocked to the extreme. All the Liu clan members in the mansion died in an instant. Not a single one escaped. The Black Fiend sect ancestor was an Earth Immortal. In East Peak City, an Earth Immortal was invincible. However, some places in the City Lord's mansion were enveloped by a formation and were not affected. Those places were all important places in the City Lord's mansion. This guy, Ji Yufei, couldn't help but frown when he saw that the Black Fiend sect ancestor had destroyed the East Peak City Lord's mansion. The killing intent of demonic cultivators was much stronger than that of ordinary cultivators. Ancestor Jiuyang, Sword Immortal Qingfeng, and the Lin clan's ancestor didn't dare to say a word. Especially the Lin clan of East Peak City. Every generation of the Lin clan and the Liu clan had a marriage alliance. These two clans dominated the entire East Peak City. But now, the Liu clan was a thing of the past. The Lin clan trembled in fear that the Black Fiend sect ancestor would point his blade at them. Soon, the entire Black Fiend sect took action. Under the leadership of the Black Fiend sect ancestor, they occupied East Peak City and took over all the Liu clan's properties. The Black Fiend sect was the big winner. However, the higher-ups of the Black Fiend sect were not happy because the Black Fiend sect ancestor's life was still in Ji Yufei's hands. The current Black Fiend sect was no longer the Black Fiend sect ancestor. Preposterous. Liu Rufeng, who had escaped from East Peak City in advance, hated the Black Fiend sect ancestor and Ji Yufei to the core when he learned that the Liu clan was finished. He fled far away to find his father, the East Peak City Lord. While the Black Fiend sect was taking over the Liu clan's properties, in the depths of the East Peak mountain range tens of thousands of miles away from East Peak City, a blurry figure was sitting cross-legged in a terrifying demonic cave. A terrifying aura was emitted from this figure. At the same time, Ji Yufei brought Zhu Ziru and the Black Fiend sect ancestor to a courtyard of the Black Fiend sect in East Peak City. This courtyard looked ordinary, but it had all kinds of pavilions, terraces, and pavilions. Ji Yufei wasn't in a hurry to leave East Peak City. A few days later, Mo Xian'er also came out of his inner world. Mo Xian'er's cultivation had actually broken through to the great success stage of the immortal martial realm. This surprised Ji Yufei and Zhu Ziru. Boom! On the 10th day, the Liu clan was annihilated. In the depths of the East Peak mountain range, a demonic cave that absorbed demonic qi suddenly exploded. With the demonic cave as the center, everything within a 10-mile radius was directly destroyed by the explosion. A terrifying figure walked out from the dust that soared into the sky. This person was shrouded in demonic qi from head to toe, and his blood-red pupils were exceptionally frightening. This person was the Liu clan's patriarch and the East Peak City Lord. No one would believe that the East Peak City Lord had joined the demonic path. The East Peak City Lord took a deep breath, and the heaven and earth spiritual qi within a radius of tens of thousands of miles immediately gathered towards him and was directly absorbed by him. All living beings within a radius of tens of thousands of miles lost their vitality and all died. Father, a figure rushed over from afar and landed in front of the East Peak City Lord. Then, he directly knelt on the ground. This person was Liu Rufeng. What? The Black Fiend sect betrayed me. The East Peak City Lord was shocked and angry. When he heard that the Black Fiend sect ancestor had annihilated the Liu clan of East Peak City, he almost went crazy. Black Fiend sect ancestor, Ji Yufei, just you wait. The East Peak City Lord almost went crazy. He never thought that Ji Yufei was strong enough to defeat the Black Fiend sect ancestor. This was unbelievable. Let's go to the Black Fiend sect's headquarters first. The East Peak City Lord waved his big sleeve and soared into the sky, bringing Liu Rufeng to the Black Fiend sect's headquarters. 4 hours later, a figure directly killed his way to the Black Fiend sect's headquarters. Heads rolled everywhere, and almost all the disciples of the Black Fiend sect were killed by him. Boom! With a loud explosion, the entire Black Demon Mountain exploded. A peerless demonic artifact rushed out from the Black Demon Mountain and was grabbed by a man. It was a large halberd. Demonic Sky Halberd. Is this the legendary Demonic Sky Halberd? Liu Rufeng was incomparably agitated. His eyes reddened as he stared at the halberd in his father's hands. The demonic sky halberd was a demonic weapon that could contend against a golden immortal. A golden immortal was an existence even stronger than a heavenly immortal. BZZZ. The East Peak City Lord shook the halberd in his hand as a terrifying demonic shadow manifested from his body, intimidating all directions. Now, we can find Gu Fei and the Black Fiend sect ancestor to settle the score. The East Peak City Lord gritted his teeth. I'm going to twist their heads off and kick them like a ball. Liu Rufeng coldly stated. The #1 cultivation clan in the East Peak region, the Liu clan, was actually annihilated by Gu Fei. This caused the East Peak City Lord and his son to hate him to the core. Gu Fei was already on the East Peak City Lord's kill list. At this moment, the Black Fiend sect completely obeyed Gu Fei. Gu Fei wanted to find the source energy of the immortal martial realm. He wanted to use the source energy of heaven and earth to raise his cultivation base. At this moment, ordinary spiritual chi of heaven and earth wouldn't be of much use to him. But the source energy of heaven and earth would be able to raise his cultivation base very quickly. Master, these are the things you are looking for. The Black Fiend sect ancestor was incomparably domineering. He directly gathered all the ancient records in the East Peak region and presented them to Gu Fei. Gu Fei flipped through all the ancient records in the East Peak region and finally found some records regarding the source energy of heaven and earth. All the secret arts and heaven-shaking secrets of the immortal martial realm could be found in the central immortal realm. Not just anyone could enter the central immortal realm. That was the #1 immortal realm in the immortal martial realm. Unless one was from a supreme sect or a supreme cultivation clan, they wouldn't be able to enter and exit as they wished. The entire central immortal realm was enveloped by supreme grand formations that were laid down by supreme martial immortals. However, the supreme grand formations of the immortal martial realm were all trash in the eyes of Gu Fei. He could easily break them. Gu Fei decided to head to the central immortal realm. However, just as he was about to move, a devilish silhouette suddenly appeared in the airspace above the courtyard he was in. A terrifying devil might that towered up into the sky instantly appeared. In the next instant, everyone in the courtyard was alarmed. The Black Fiend sect ancestor directly rushed out. However, when the Black Fiend sect ancestor saw that silhouette, he was greatly shocked. East Peak City Lord. The Black Fiend sect ancestor's voice trembled. Black Fiend sect ancestor, you actually dared to betray my father? Are you tired of living? After which, another silhouette rushed out. This person was none other than Liu Rufeng, the young master of the Liu clan. When the Black Fiend sect ancestor heard this, fear and terror filled his heart. Gu Fei, quickly come out and accept your death,